Underworlds, an Age of Sigmar story phase. Grab your hammer so we can clear a path through the chaos and forge our own narratives in the Age of Sigmar. Your allies through the Veil of Screams this episode are...
Hey, my name is Paul, and what is an Italian stormcast called Malice?
I don't know.
A bella cord!
I'm Phil, and today I'm coming here to share with you the great news of our Lord and Savior Croak, who is bringing to you the gospel of the great plan.
And I'm Aaron, and the Stormcast staying at the Hotel Chaman can check out anytime they like. In this episode, we cover the lore of Broken Realms Be'lakor. Did you guys hear that? It's the sound of Be'lakor plotting and planning and scheming, and he's going to do whatever he can to regain the Chaos God's notice, even if he has to wreck a realm or two to do it. But at least for us, he has our curiosity, and now he has our attention. Let's see what he's up to. Hey guys, how are you tonight?
Doing good.
I love it.
Yeah.
Phil, how are you?
Yeah, I'm excited. Super ready to talk about this because, hey, we haven't heard much about Be'lakor in quite a while. And I'm always game when I hear stories about Seraphon.
Yeah. You've been lining up. We've just been chomping at the bit. And in just a moment, in mere heartbeats, we will talk about this story. But before we do, maybe we take a moment to just catch folks up on what we've been working on in the hobby. What have we been doing with our precious time? I'd love to hear about it. Paul, what have you been up to?
I have returned to my Harkuran army. There is actually a tournament on the horizon for me, so I need to get that painted up. I am kind of not looking forward to it in one sense because I literally have no idea how to play Age of Sigmar whatsoever at all anymore. It's been 2 years since I played a game, and I'm like, I'm going to just have to start from the beginning and figure out how to play this army. So I'm going to need to read the rule book and then Cities of Sigmar and then Harkuran. And I was making my army list and I was throwing in models, and then I was reading the rules for them and be like, oh, I literally can't use this model if I do this combination. Maybe I shouldn't field it in my army list. That sounds bad.
But now I'm wondering, do you think you could get away with it, just faking it? Because the new edition is going to be out any day now, and you're going to have to do it all over again. Can't you just wait that little bit longer and learn the third edition rules?
Nope. No.
I could just say that I'm a playtester and I learned third edition, and that's why I'm so confused about the rules, right? People would buy that, right?
Totally. Except for the complete lack of knowledge of 3.0 is going to work.
Yeah, exactly.
But no one's going to remember.
No one's going to remember that.
Yeah. And then White Dwarf ghosts him, and then they'll never see you again. Awesome. Phil, what have you been doing with your time?
I've been, obviously doing What the Hex. We've been having to try and desperately keep up with the breakneck pace of Underworld's releases that have been coming out lately. And I've also been working on painting the Starblood Stalkers, the Seraphon warband for Underworlds. Feels good. Haven't painted anything in quite a while, but these guys feel pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Just wish that actually had this quality of Saurus for AOS, because the ones we got look kind of derpy.
You're just gonna have to buy a whole bunch of these
buy
boxes.
a $40 box, but
repeatedly over and over again.
120 times.
Yeah.
Seems cost effective.
I just bought 8 Ragnarok kits and then used those goblins on my Spider Riders. I mean, it's totally a reasonable thing to do, I swear.
Sure. I mean, what's money, right?
Yeah.
Who needs it?
It's just a made up concept.
Can't take it with you, Phil. And just your comment about the breakneck speed about these releases. I felt like I didn't feel this way in previous seasons, that they were, I didn't feel like they were coming out too rapidly. And granted, I think maybe the release schedule this year has been a little different, but I can't keep the releases straight, and I'm the guy who keeps releases straight. That's my gig. That's what I do.
I mean, that's the whole reason you're in this hobby.
That's the only game I play. So yeah, I agree. It's been tough to keep up with them. I still don't have the vampires, but any day now. And what have I been working on? Still Slaanesh stuff. I'm almost done with the Hellflayer.
Nice.
What's it called?
The chariot thing?
Yeah, just putting
Getting
it together. Yeah.
all those wheels, huh? Did you finish all those
Yeah, it drives
wheels?
me yeah. Oh, that's the thing that I'm almost done with. Driving me nuts. Actually, and I was worried about having to file those down, but they're actually easier than honestly some of the other bits and components to it. So that's not the end of the world.
Nice.
So just plugging along on that. I feel like we just had this conversation, but again, speaking of rapid releases, these Broken Realms books have come up pretty quick. So we did just sort of talk about this not too long ago. But that is what I've been working on. And with that being said, if you guys have no other projects or things you want to talk about, we could probably just hop into, what do we call it? The story phase. Is that right?
That sounds familiar to me.
Like, really close. I think I almost got it. I know Paul knows. I know Paul knows what it is. Let's hear him take us there.
In the story phase, we delve into the stories, characters, creatures, and environments of the 9 realms.
You guys, it was the story phase. I was so close.
It was. You totally nailed it.
Yeah, gosh, I was right there. All right, so another Broken Realms book. This one's about Be'lakor, big wingy demon dude. But before we talk about him, maybe we try and catch people up on some pertinent information that informs the story that we are about to talk about here. Yet again, another, I don't want to say completely separate, but it feels like it's a relatively self-contained story as compared to some of the other ones. But I'm sure there's tidbits that are worth knowing going into it. Is there anything you guys think that our listeners ought to know before we discuss this story?
The big thing is this story appears to be not at the same time as Morathi, Teclis, or Wrath of the Everchosen.
I buy that. I agree.
It seems to have moved past. And the reason I say that is because there's literally a couple pages summary at the beginning of the book saying, oh, hey, all this other stuff happened in these other books. So if you don't want spoilers, don't read Be'lakor first. You can read Teclis first. You can read Morathi first. You can read Wrath of the Everchosen first. And you'll be pretty okay without having any major spoilers. If you read Be'lakor first, you're going to spoil all 3 of those tomes.
Yeah.
So I would suggest
That's true.
going back and checking those out if you haven't.
And it's even worth noting that like this retroactively involves Be'lakor in some of the events of some of those previous stories, so thus necessitating this one coming after the fact that like those previous events wouldn't have happened had Be'lakor not had his little like spiky fingers involved.
Yeah.
One of the things that you ought to know about this, or know going into this story, is you should probably get caught up on the crusade, I guess you could call it, between like Morathi's forces and the Stormcast forces who are invading the 8 points in order to destroy, quote unquote, which we know this isn't exactly the goal, to destroy the Varanite that is hanging out in
Varanvax's Maw.
There you go. In the 8 points, and so because of that, the effect of that sort of, I'm going to use the word crusade again, provides sort of an impetus for a story beat that occurs in this story. So that has already occurred thus far in the timeline. You guys got any other ones? What else?
Well, Wrath of the Everchosen has definitely already occurred because in Wrath of the Everchosen, Lady Olander is banished. But Lady Olander, if you even read just the Dramatis Personae at the beginning, which I really like that they're doing this, they're putting all the characters in that are going to be included.
Yeah.
You're able to see that Lady Olander is a major character in this book. So we have passed the point of her discorporation and her coming back into the realms, which makes you think that perhaps this happened before the end of Broken Realms Teclis, but not before the actual end of Broken Realms Teclis, because Lady Olander comes back. But if, big spoilers again, if you haven't read Broken Realms Teclis, Nagash is gone. So how did Olander come back? And did she come back beforehand? Did she come back afterhand? And like, that's actually an interesting twist that we have on this story. How is Olander acting? And would this be something that she would do if Nagash were there?
Yeah, true.
I agree that I think this one is like the latest chronologically, but I think Teclis ends after this book just because I feel like the death of Nagash I guess the breaking of Nagash would probably have been a big enough deal that it would have come up at some point in Broken Realms Be'lakor, and it never does. So I don't know. Or just nobody knows.
Well, you would think, I mean, Olinda has enough screen time, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, that you would think she'd have a comment to say about this. But it does say in the book that the events in Teclis, the world-shaking events that are actively occurring, provide some of the cover for Be'lakor to get up to what he's getting up to. And so, like, it very well could be sort of overlapping with a lot of the events of Teclis. Because while that's going on, a lot of attention is directed in that, in Shai Shir-Hish, thus allowing him to get, sneaky all up in Shaman, which, for everyone who's listening, a lot of this book takes place in Shaman.
Yeah. So one of the other things that I think is important is it is my old saw, and I know it's my old saw, but I think the unreliable narrator really raises the head here, because when you read Broken Realms Teclis, everything's kind of happy and great, and Teclis is doing great, and he's spreading hope. And when you're reading Broken Realms Marathi, everything was to the plan, and it all worked out great, except for that one moment. But the same thing kind of happens here with Be'lakor, is that everything is great, and then something happens, and right, no, but that's totally fine. We're all fine here. It's all fine now. And so that's why we're kind of vacillating back and forth about when this is happening, because Nagash could have happened beforehand. It could have happened after. We don't really have any idea because it's not pertinent to this story. And this one in particular has its own narrative impetus that really pushes through as you're reading from Act 1 to Act 2 to Act 3. And if you were to include that at any point, it would really slow down the action or take your attention away from where the story is really pushing. So I think part of it is the necessity of telling the story of Be'lakor, but I think also a lot of it is this is really told from Bellacor's perspective. And I think because a lot of these are like, this is what I did. This is how I did it. We're going to hear a lot of that in this story. So it's a very enjoyable read. Buckle in and hang on tight for the ride for sure.
So I think maybe we've set the stage as well as we're ever going to. How about we stop beating around the bush and jump right in to this here story and start with Act 1, which I think it's just called The Tower Falls. Wow, that's a little ominous. I like my towers upright. Gosh, all right. So where's the story start? Where do they drop us in on this tale? It seems like a familiar place.
It's pretty on the nose here, I think, in that the first segment of the story is named "The Bloodwind Spoil," and that's where our story begins.
Ooh, nice.
Basically, they bring us here because they outline the general machinations of the Eater of Tomes. He's one of the Gaunt Summoners of Tzeentch. And so the tower referenced here is then talking about his Silver Tower. And the story, I mean, I guess the way I would sort of put it is that it outlines that the Seraphon and Croak have realized that there's this plan going on by the Gaunt Summoner to use Varanite to corrupt realm gates. And they want to just give you a lay of the land for, like, here's where the story is going to be taking place. And then they basically give a quick synopsis of the Bloodwind Spoil and where everything is located there and where the Silver Tower is, so that when we get in there, you kind of know what's going on.
Yeah, well, it kind of picks up. This is rare, I think, in these books where it actually picks up sort of where this part of the story ended in Marathi that we didn't necessarily get to see the end of, right? So like in Marathi, we saw the fight of the Stormcast battling in the Blood Wind Spoils against the forces of chaos, and like, oh no, their souls are getting sucked up into the chaos shrines. Van Brecht boogies on out of there in order to spread the word and sort of oh crud, we got betrayed, yada yada yada. But we never saw what happened to everybody else there, and I personally had resigned myself to never knowing. It was just like, I don't know, they got rid of that was the end of them. I mean, you were supposed to maybe think that like this was the end of the line for all the, that giant force that had been marched out into the Bloodwind Spoils. But we find as we're sort of caught up, as Phil mentioned, that talking about sort of setting the stage, then we're dropped right back into that story, and it turns out, well, no, that wasn't the end of it, and many of them, I mean, not even say many, a few of them, definitely not many, were able to sort of fight their way through that fight and start booking their way back to their entry point to the Genesis Gate, right?
Yep. That's the one.
Got it, man. I'm really good at this lore stuff. Yeah. I didn't expect to ever see those folks again. And of course, I don't remember most of their names, but I mean, they were important. I'm sure they were really important. And so in doing so, it gives us sort of this perspective that ends up being minor into the grand scheme of things, but like it lets you know that the story's continuing on even when you're not looking.
True,
which was kind of cool.
A couple details, if you don't mind me mentioning. So Varenthax's Maw, which is where we had catacombs show up and where Broken Realms Marathi, in the little map of the Bloodwind Spoil, is now called the Fields of Sorrow. The battlefields around Varenthax's Maw are littered with the corpses and marked by great chaos shrines proclaiming victory in the name of the dark gods. So this is literally the place where the Stormcast are running from. But then the next thing that we're being guided towards is the Eater's Lair, which is the gaunt summoner known as the Eater of Tomes, has dwelt within the Silver Tower, half buried in the Vale of Screams, which is just north of Lost Valorum, which is the campaign that was in the 2020 Warcry compendium for the end of the year. So I kind of wish I had read that now to see if there are any plot tie-ins for going on to the Eater of Tomes. And I feel like Pavin would have like prepared and been like, oh, I looked this up and I made sure that this matched and now I feel inadequate.
And there's never an episode that we record where there's not at least one thing where I realize, nope, I should have read that before we did this. Without fail, there's always some little tidbit that I should have.
There's the pitch. Go back and read some Warcry lore.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to. I wish. So the Stormcast are booking. They're making this long trek back to the Genesis Gate, and fortunately, the gate is in, I'll say, Order's hands, right? So this is the Realm of Life gate into the 8 points that Alariel had to open up in the first place. But it needs to be held because it's not, you don't just have to worry about chaos on the 8 point side, but you got to worry about chaos on the Realm of Life side too. Chock full of Nurgle champions and things. And knowing that this gate needs to be held, and is Nurgle being sent by anybody? The Nurgle forces being sent by anybody in particular, or are they're always just there knocking on the door? They need Stormcast to hold the gate on their side, and so Gardas with his Steel Souls were sent to basically hold Hodor, the door, open for them, so that the Stormcast can
for sure
make their way back. And so you've got Gardas on the Realm of Life side, our side. Like I belong to the Realm of Life, though if I had to pick one, that's probably where I'd go. So they're fighting Nurgle forces on the good guy side of the gate, while the other Stormcasts are, racing for their lives on the 8 point side to get to it. The Sylvaneth are either nowhere to be found or on their way, but they're irrelevant to this plot point. However, there's some rustling in the trees. There's some rustling in the underbrush, and you look and you think, well, trees, Realm of Life. Here come the Sylvaneth. No. It's some scaly nonsense. I want to hear Phil talk about the scaly nonsense.
So yeah, I mean, so there's some scaly nonsense, and it's basically a significant star host, specifically a star host. So they're the celestial Seraphon. They're not the coalesced Seraphon. And this is the group called the Dracothian's Tale, which we know because they mentioned the Slann or name later on, which is actually a callback to a previous Seraphon battle tome, where if you took the battalion for Dracothian's Tale, the Slann that you had gained this name. I mean, it wasn't actually a named character, but your Slann just had a name. And he had a Carnosaur Old Blood that came with him. And he also had just a name because he was part of this battalion. It had like nothing to do with being named characters. But anyway, those characters are in this story. So we know where they're from. And they've been sent by Croak to go deal with the Silver Tower. And so their whole deal, because Croak was like, hey, distraction time. Let's get these guys in there while Chaos is looking the other way. So they come flying out of the jungle, and Steel Soul is like, oh, we're saved. And then they just keep on running through the gate. and I think there's actually a section, there's a whole page as the last of the Seraphon go through the gate where Grim is basically like turns to Gardas and is just like, what just happened, man? Like, I thought we were safe and they just abandoned us. Like, I thought they were supposed to be our allies. And so a great representation of the fickle alliance between anybody and Seraphon, because the Seraphon don't mess around. I gotta follow that great plan.
It's not a lost cause, but the Stormcast are in trouble. Like, they needed.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't like they were doing fine. And like, who cares? Like, they needed that help.
They thought they were doomed.
They lose with it. Like, they don't win. Or Gardas doesn't survive it. But it was a need that the Seraphon had no interest in filling.
Well, and the other thing I love is that the Slann is like, oh, no, we need you here. Because we need you as a distraction. Like, this is perfect.
Distraction time.
We need you literally to hold this gate for us. But we're just going to like kind of just slip through. You don't see us here. It shouldn't be that big of a deal, right? It's fine.
Yeah.
I like to picture it. It's like the Jurassic Park going through the tall grass instead of like attacking the people. It's just the Velociraptors just keep going and then you never see them again.
I think to make it even better, like, they planned it knowing they're like, oh, so the 8 points guys are also distracting all the chaos ridiculousness at the 8 points. So we'll use that and this point at the Genesis Gate and basically just have a human shield in the form of Stormcast so that we can make our way to the Silver Tower.
Yeah. Well, and let's point out that this is the race that literally has spaceships that they can land anywhere. And they're like, well, we could have landed a spaceship in the 8 realms, but let's just like run behind this other battle because it's a little bit less work.
I don't think it's specifically mentioned anywhere, and it certainly is a like terrible like gap in the plot, but I don't think that they can just go in and out of the 8 points at will.
It actually does say, it says that the forces of chaos are so disruptive that they couldn't just teleport them in. They couldn't just beam me down, Scotty, them right into the 8
there you go.
Yeah,
but I mean, can't you just who doesn't want a ziggurat in the 8 realms? I mean, it's got 4 sides, maybe more points on it. I don't know.
I mean, this is getting ahead of ourselves, but those ziggurats have another job that they're going to need to do.
That's true. Yeah. The other super salient point here is that Croak is running through because he wants to take out the Silver Tower for the Eater of Tomes. But he doesn't want to just take out the Silver Tower of the Eater of Tomes. He hates like all the Silver Towers because they mess with the Astro Matrix, right? Which is his like bread and butter baby, which determines the ley lines and, to use Piven's joke from the last episode, which was amazing, the professional lines to figure out where the magic is going. So this is like step 1 of Croak's plan.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess to elaborate on that a bit, that Croak was worried. I mean, it sounds like because they know the Silver Towers are connected to all the realms, including the Chaos Realm, which is weird because nowhere else really directly connects to the Chaos Realm. But with access to all of the realm gates from the Silver Towers, they were also very worried about the experiments with Veronite because they were going to try and corrupt realm gates. And knowing that the realm gates are connected to the Astral Matrix, which binds all the magic of all the realms, that would ruin the great plan. And then we need to stop that. So the answer, I guess, is blow up the Silver Towers.
We brought Phil to talk about Seraphon and talk about Seraphon. We're going to. So
All
they're,
right.
they're through the gate. They've all their enemies have been distracted. They can make a beeline to the Silver Tower. Tell me about that, Phil.
Sure can. So similar to the Stormcast, but kind of in reverse, they're now having to fight their way across the 8 points. And so they're, I think, if I remember it correctly, they don't really hit hard resistance until they actually get to the valley where the Eater of Tomes hangs out. But when they get there, then it becomes like Demon Central, and there are a lot of chaos forces they have to fight their way through. And they are fighting like they don't even care if they die, basically. This is a suicide mission, and that's fine, evidently. I think, and I don't remember where, so I will not be able to quote it directly, but I thought it was interesting that they actually made a point of saying, like, all the chaos energy in the 8 points is so bad for the Slann that comes with them that it's like actually hurting him to even be in the 8 points.
There's also a couple times where the 8 points itself actually attacks the Slann, or attacks the Seraphon. So they don't meet any resistance from the Eater of Tomes until they get much, much closer. But the 8 points, as in the realm itself, is attacking the Seraphon. So that's a massive, like, oh, okay, so we're going all grr on the Seraphon now, but we're at the 8 points. I get it. This is a thing now.
Yeah. OG haters of chaos. Chaos
I did like
right back.
I did like how, like a Mr. Meeseek's existence is pain in the 8 points for Seraphon.
Exactly. So I mean, a lot of this part of the story is kind of just exposition to be like, hey, look, this is some cool stuff that the Seraphon are doing, and they like elaborate on how they're fighting and how they're being attacked. But like, I would actually say that until they get to the actual Silver Tower, there's not a ton of actual story development here, which is a little disappointing. But I'm perfectly happy to hear anything that talks about Seraphon, because they don't come up in stories all that often.
That seems like a perfect segue to say, if you are interested in stories about Seraphon, you should pick up White Dwarf issue 463 and read specifically the Warhammer Age of Sigmar Flashpoint Broken Realms, which is a massive Seraphon versus Be'lakor story that basically is another chapter in this book. It is unclear whether or not it's a prequel or concurrent with what's going on, but it's like 10 pages of awesome lore talking about where Be'lakor got his Bloodthirster and his Lord of Change from, and all this kind of stuff. So it's a great deep dive into the Seraphon and how they predict the future and figure out what's going on. So
That's cool. Right on.
Yeah.
So the Seraphon roll up to the tower. Isn't it at some point that they walk, like they're getting close? Like they fought some battles, but they get close to it and they're like, "Where is everybody? Like, what's going on?" And it's at that last minute that the portals start opening up, and then the demons start pouring out, and then there's a big old fight. There's this is where we're introduced to Atrazan, the Immolator, right? So he's a big Herald of Tzeentch on like one of their
He is a Herald of Tzeentch.
Screamer chariot things. And so he's an immolator, so he's just immolating people left and right. There's like a series of like aerial attacks. And so like, what are the Seraphon going to do? They got their pterodon riders, but they're not necessarily like a sky force to be reckoned with. But then lo and behold, magic fingers, and they start launching their carnosaurs up into the sky.
Yeah.
And like it ends up being a T-Rex sky fight, which is delightful.
How terrifying is that? You're like, I can fly, right? I'm on a disc, and like, oh wait, he's got a T-Rex. He's got a freaking carnosaur. Crap.
T-Rex,
flying T-Rex, which I mean, I think is actually great because it's one of the spells that Aslan has in their War Scrolls, and so it's just a great elaboration of like, this is what it would actually look like when a character from the game is doing these things that you see on the tabletop all the time. But here's like details of what it would look like and what it would be like. Just give you that extra oomph in trying to imagine what a Slan would actually look like as they're giving flight to all of their followers around them.
I think a lot of these books are trying to do something similar in that they're trying to show off what a given unit can do. However, none of the units can do anything as cool as make like a flying carnosaur. So like when I'm reading about how strong the Lumineth spear and like shield guys are at holding their phalanx, like okay, sure, neat, cool. I'm glad to see that. It doesn't compare to flying carnosaurs. Like if you're going to show off what a unit can do, make sure that the things that the unit can do are awesome. Helping people with their spears.
Fair.
But it's not necessarily the flying carnosaur that really drives the Seraphon's point home, but they're able to. This is one of like 2 points where like the ankylosaur equivalents with the
Bastillodons.
Yeah, Bastillodons with the gems.
Engines.
Yeah. The light cannons on their backs, right? Because this is where they start lighting up the base of the tower. They're able to fight
solar engines.
Yeah.
True. Yep. I believe that they have they start to crack the tower first.
Oh yeah.
Am I remembering that correctly? They've got some Croxagore, which don't show up, I don't think, very often. But they're getting to work trying to hammer the thing down. That's not working, and then they're shooting at it. And then I think basically is this where the Eater of Tomes basically decides that things have gone awry and he needs to yeet out of here?
Yeah, they breached his defenses. He's already sort of low on his defenders. It's worth noting that, like, as part of the distraction, he was sending his followers after the Stormcast. So, like, back home, he isn't as strong as he would have been. And in fact, I think he's gone for a hot second, but then he rolls back up like halfway through the fight. He realizes, well, no. Like, this, enough is enough. I know. I mean, it's the better part of valor. I'm gonna wink out of existence and take my tower. I'm gonna take my ball and go home. Like I don't need to deal with this.
Yeah.
And so he's able to, from his teleportation circle inside his tower, he's able to conjure a teleportation spell and poof his tower to someplace else. Which we knew that these were capable of doing that. The silver towers are never permanently locked in any one place, and this is just another example of him saying, "Well, nope, it's too rich for my blood," and he's gonna teleport out to the void in between, and there's a term for it, the void in between realms, because it's a better place if you're going to hide. Like that seems like a great location to hide. No one's ever going to find him there.
No one. Never.
Do you know what the great thing is, though? Do you know how he makes this happen? He just snaps his fingers. When you're a jet to the last, from your first cigarette to your last dying gasp, right? Because the silver tower takes off like a jet. All right, I'm sorry. That was a belabored joke. Go ahead.
I wasn't sure where you were going with that one.
I didn't understand.
I'm glad you explained it, so at least I'm not confused anymore.
All right, sounds good.
So now he's safe.
Yeah, he thinks he's safe.
Totally safe. I mean, you're in the void of space. What can attack you in the void of space?
It didn't even occur to me, Phil, that this is a fight between I think your two favorite armies, I believe.
It is, actually.
Oh,
that's
awesome. That's
Tzeentch
awesome.
and Seraphon.
So Tzeentch teleports away and feels like, whew, thank God. But then it turns out they're not safe. And then you're like, whew, thank God. Because who's there waiting for him?
Well, from the sounds of it, it sounds like like all the Seraphon? I mean, I don't remember. I don't know if they gave a number, but it said a number of Ziggurat temple ships were flying around out there, just waiting for him to show up. And like, I think if I remember, there was a short story from a while ago that explained that one of these Ziggurat temple ships is like an entire city basically flying around in space, and they have like what's it called,
spawning pools.
Well, they have spawning pools, but like they've recreated jungles of Lustria inside of the temples, and they're huge, and basically like every one of these houses an entire like star host. And so having more than one of these waiting for the Silver Tower when it shows up seems like a big deal. And specifically, it was also headed up by Croak's ship, which is a callback to the city where Croak's remains were hanging out in the old world, which is Itza.
Nice.
Ship name is Itza something, and I can't find Itza Wheatlan. It's the name of his temple ship.
So not
a nice little
pizza.
callback. Yeah, eat some pizza.
Well, but for him, it literally probably is Itza. Like he literally probably took the city with him from the old world. Like it's not a callback.
Right.
It's literally just like
it actually is the temple city of Itza, probably.
Like, hey, it's a little bit of the old world right here in your face, flying in space, attacking a silver tower.
Yeah, actually, I guess remembering back to the Broken Realm stories, the Slann, when they realized that the world was doomed, actually just got in the temple ships. All of the temple guard like got off and started defending the temples, and then they literally just like jetted and flew up into space, and then just were like, "Bye, everybody else, you're done. We failed. Sorry." But
and thanks
the
for all
great
the
plan
fish.
must go on.
Yeah, the great plan did not include us dying in a terrible fire as the world collapsed. Peace out.
Bye.
Oh, there was a back to the great plan. I didn't see that there was more to. Okay, we're gonna have to
yeah. The great plan says I must now abandon the old world. All right, cool.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah,
and so it's a welcoming party. What are they? What kind of welcoming do they give them?
Yeah. So number one, there was a dragon that's wrapped itself around one of the ziggurats, which I was like, well, that's kind of cool. Is that Dracothian? I mean, we've talked about how the star host that came down was Dracothian's tail. So do we have a god beast assisting the Seraphon assault? So that was kind of a cool call out. But then the ziggurats not only can fly, but they can launch battle barges. They launch battle barges into the side of the Silver Tower. And it's Space Hulk, but it's AOS. And instead of Space Marines and Gene Stealers, it's Horrors and Seraphon just smashing into each other and doing some red work inside of the Silver Tower.
But the Silver Tower is not defenseless. They throw some more demons and stuff at him, right? And they're casting spells, and like, doesn't one of the temple ships get taken down too? Because like, it has to go that way. They have to inflict some sort of.
Well, yeah, because I mean, so the light that ends up showing up is like in the shape of a great serpent, which I mean, we could guess as to what that might be, but I believe that it makes a point to saying that the light basically can shoot out at stuff, and they can shoot the Silver Tower, and the Silver Tower sort of shoots chaos magic back at them. And so, I mean, this is about as close to 40K as you get in AOS. You got spaceships shooting each other with laser beams. So, there you go. But I think very quickly realized that maybe going between the realms was not the right place to go with the Silver Tower, and needs to zip out of there once again.
Mm-hmm. Well, does it zip or does it crash? Like, because don't they put a?
Oh, yeah, it does crash, doesn't it?
Yeah, they put a beam right through it.
Yeah, it careens madly.
Yep, goes up into smoke, and when you're in the space between realms, when you fall, who knows where you're going to land, and it careens down into Chaman, like off to off to off center of the spiral crux. It lands in the rusted waste.
The rusted waste. Like
Yep.
I typically am loath to use movie references when we're talking about Age of Sigmar lore, but this is straight up like Armageddon Deep Impact.
Broadway references are fine though, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course, because that's high art. Right? This is just movies. But like literally, it comes screaming in, trailing like this massive plume of steam, just cutting through mountains, cutting through the realm before it just like screeches to a halt in the rusted waste and just makes a massive dent into the realm of metal. Like this is a heavy, massive thing that has just crashed down to the realm sphere. So it's a major event.
Eater of or I forget his name, Secrets? Eater of Tomes? Secrets.
Eater of
Tomes pops out, dusts himself off, and says any landing you can walk away from is a good landing. And he looks back at the destruction that he's wrought and he says, oh, it's going to take me forever to fix all this. Ugh.
Yeah.
Which is how I would feel at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And then when you know it, then the thunder starts. Like, oh, great, there's going to be a storm. That's the last thing I need at this point with my crashed tower. Wait a second. It's not a storm. It's the thundering footprints of a thunder lizard. What's the thing called from Seraphon?
I think you got it. Thunder lizard, isn't it?
The thunder lizard. Yeah.
Don't doubt yourself.
He's then attacked by
the host, the thunder lizard.
The thunder lizard host. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, because Croak knew not only was he going to attack the tower, and then not only was the tower going to blast out into the void, and then not only was it going to blast out into the void and then get confronted with the armada, and then not only was he going to blast away one ziggurat and then try to escape through that hole, and then not only was he going to get shot down and then crash back into the realm of metal, and not only was he going to go through and careen through mountaintops, he was literally going to end up right here. And Croak was like, all right, dude, coalesced Thunder Lizard host, you're going to stand right here and just wait. You'll know when I need you. There'll be a screaming metal pylon carving through the realm that's going to show up right in this valley in about 1,000 years. So just be prepared. It's going to happen.
And
well, he's had a job this whole time. Yeah, the Thunder Lizards have been protecting all sorts of like ancient artifacts and stuff. So like, it's not that they're twiddling their thumbs and then just conveniently at their doorstep. I think they had to maybe go through some portal or something or like a realm gate. But like at the equivalent of their doorstep, a giant silver tower rolls up, and hey, that's your cue. If you're wondering what your cue was, it's that.
It literally is their doorstep. The Thunder Lizards do live in Shimon.
Oh, nice.
Perfect.
So like they were just there. So they're like, okay, cool. Lands right in our backyard. No big deal.
They come thundering in, like I said, and relaunching their attack on this downed silver tower, which for whatever reason still has plenty of defenses to like hold off for a little bit. But then lo and behold, the Bastillodons yet again with their gems, don't they light the thing up a second time? And in doing so, not to be anticlimactic, but explode the darn thing.
They sure do. They explode the darn thing. So I guess the only thing that I would elaborate here is that like they do sort of give some details of like the construction of a crystal or a silver tower, which is kind of cool. And talk about how it has these like magical nodes that power it. And that's what they focus their beams on. And in doing so, it sets off a chain reaction inside the darn thing. And I guess because it's connected to so much magic and chaos realms and stuff, that if you set off a chain reaction inside a silver tower, it goes off like a couple thousand nukes.
Yeah, it's a massive explosion.
You can't see how big a smile Phil has right now. I don't know how he's so delighted by this, but
I mean, I don't know. Seraphon winning over chaos is always fun, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
But I think as you were as we were mentioning, I mean, the destruction of a crashing silver tower is bad. The destruction of an exploding silver tower is quite a bit worse. And I believe they make mention that like there is now like an 1,000-mile crater or something around where the Silver Tower was. The rusted wastes are just gone. There's nothing left. And anyone who was looking that direction at the time is just temporarily blinded because, giant explosions. Don't look at them. Cool guys don't look at explosions.
Right. And the thing is, right, it's not even like this is a normal planet or something where it's like, oh, yeah, of course, because we have so much energy, it just kind of like dissipates. It's like, no, we've got like, forged metal and diamond and like who knows what else, like amazing, incredibly tough substance that is just vaporized in an instant. Like it is so hot that it just incinerates metal, like turns it immediately to steam and it's gone.
Yep.
Do you know what also it incinerates? It incinerates lizard people.
Yeah, sure does.
Known as Seraphon. Everybody who's there were basically were coalesced and they get wiped out. Except, is this also where Croak thinks up the general who was leading this Thunder Lizard charge? And lo and behold, he shimmers back into existence. And I guess if he was coalesced before, he's now whatever the star version of.
I was wondering if he's now Starborn. Yeah.
Is that the implication? Like,
I mean, he should be. The weird thing is that, like, the war scroll that they released in the box that came with this set that they released for these guys, it's very explicit that it has to be part of Thunder Lizard, which is coalesced. So it's sort of like you can't take the guy after he's been revived, I guess. So, either that or...
It doesn't really matter. But
it doesn't matter, but... or maybe Croak sent him back and it's like, now you just need to chill for a couple 100 years so you can recoalesce.
He's like, I was doing a pretty good job before I can back up. And then I guess one other consideration or perspective on this is this event was witnessed at a distance all across the realm. I'm seeing this big explosion, but noteworthy were a number of Beric Zilfin Kharadron overlords, and so they sort of, I guess they witnessed this at, many miles away from it occurring, and as like any good entrepreneur recognizes, where there's calamity, there's opportunity, and they decide, we're in one of the fastest ships that we've got. Zilfin's even one of the fastest barracks even. Let's go check it out and see where there's money to be made.
And part of the reason why they're thinking about checking it out is because there is an Archanaut that we are introduced to, which is a very fascinating introduction because he walks up and starts talking to an admiral. And the admiral, number one, listens to him. And then number two, there's a little discussion of like, oh yeah, Grumpy, I know you, right? Like, I can't remember where you signed on or really why I'm listening to you. But like, you're a cool dude. This is interesting. So we get a white-haired but tattoo-covered Dwarden Archanaut. So
nothing weird about that.
Nothing weird about that. Yeah.
Happens all the time.
They always mention how he looks older than dirt.
Correct.
Not literally, but
Yeah. Grumpy's like, hey, maybe we should go check out what's going on over there. Like that might be interesting. Let's figure that out.
Don't need to tell me twice. Rock it off.
Yeah.
Check it out. And unless there's any other things you guys want to talk about in Act 1, I think that might be it. That was me closing the book like this of Act 1. And then I'll open now I'm opening Act 2. Okay, I think we can probably hop in to the second act, same as the first. Do you guys remember Bellicor? Like, he's a big dude, chain wings. He likes to point at stuff a lot.
Kind of rings a bell. Because
apparently a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about over the past couple months has surprisingly actually been because of his machinations, as we alluded to before.
M-O-C-K or M-A-C-H-I-N?
Is he a very
machinations?
Yeah, I guess he could be. Like, he's not nice. I'm sure he's a bully. I bet he'd be an internet troll in real life.
He's a mock ever chosen. I tell you what.
Sure. Well,
So
like
we
that.
should probably talk about that. Actually, Be'lakor was the original Everchosen. He is a demon prince,
OG.
and in the old world, he is the OG old world, best of the best, most honored mortal/immortal follower of chaos. But
There was.
unfortunately, Archaon showed up, and Archaon went on a quest and grabbed all of the items that were prophesied to make him the Everchosen. And Be'lakor never went away, but Archaon ascended to become the Everchosen and has stayed that till this day. So Be'lakor is like the red-headed stepchild, but he was the firstborn, but he is now the second in command. So he is a demon prince who still has a massive amount of power and a massive amount of influence, as we'll see going forward. But he is not officially recognized as, per se, the general of generals, the leader of the hosts of the chaos. That is not who Be'lakor is. But he has never forgotten that was what he was intended to be. And so this is the character that we're going to start talking about moving forward. He is a being who has smoldered for time immaterial from one exploded world into 8 unknown realms with a hatred of Archaon and at the same time a hatred of order, destruction, and death.
Basically a hatred of most people and things. He probably hates the Chaos Gods, honestly. I mean, I understand he wants their favor, but I don't know. He feels snubbed. I bet there's some level of animosity even towards them. He's just a hateful dude, guys. It's not good. It's not good for you.
Yeah.
Not healthy.
Definitely. You'd think that someone with so many grudges that he'd get along better with.
And then I'm gonna hold a grudge against that. So this is the sort of individual that we're dealing with here. But it turns out the events of other Broken Realm stories, and then also what the Seraphon just did with the Silver Tower, are playing right into his hand, because he's got big dreams. He's got big aspirations to again catch the Chaos God's attention and regain their favor by doing something crazy, by doing something that even Archaon couldn't do, and that is what the rest of the book, the adventure that the rest of the book takes us on.
So it starts off by saying that he orchestrated Croak destroying the Silver Tower. And the reason why he orchestrated destroying the Silver Tower was because it destabilized a whole swath of realm gates in Shamon. And Croak considered this an acceptable side effect of being able to dispose of one of the 9 Silver Towers. But Be'lakor basically, in this book, is saying, no, I did this on purpose, because now we've got a bunch of destabilized realm gates, and this is going to be super sweet. And then he also adds a little in BT dubs, I also let Von Brecht out because I want Sigmar to know that Morathi betrayed him. Because who doesn't want everybody fighting against everybody else?
Yeah. If your enemies are fighting, they're not fighting each other. They ain't fighting you.
Yeah. And I think even worse than just that it messed up realm gates, I think they elaborate here that the realm gates are connected to the astral matrix, and the astral matrix is what holds the realms together. It's like the stitches between the realms, and it actually keeps the magic all held together. And so breaking those connections is actually almost worse than breaking realm gates, because it actually starts to tear the fabric of reality apart, which we'll talk about that more later.
It almost seems like there's this great magical spider web that holds everything together, and everybody who tries to repair it are basically like these spiders that go around and repair everything. I mean, it's all about spiders. That's all I'm saying. It's all about spiders.
It's spiders
it's the
all the way
geomantic web. Huh? Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
There you go. Webs, spiders, obviously.
We were talking about having his enemies fight each other, but he's got a lot of enemies. Like we said, if you got that many grudges, you haven't made a lot of friends in the world. And I think the last time we saw Be'lakor was during the Wrath of the Everchosen. He made an appearance right underneath Archaon, which I'm sure he hated every second of.
Oh my god!
But when so doing bad. So, he did something noteworthy in that when they were fighting the combined forces of Nighthaunt and Bone Reapers, he was able to take out Lady Olinder. Like he was able, because his sword's all magic, and so he's able to pierce her spectral form and banish her off into nowhere. I think we had mentioned that earlier. Not nowhere. He banished her off to a very specific place, which is to say her home kingdom, which is her own underworld in the realm of Shyish. And Be'lakor, realizing that there's a lot of players out there that can mess with his big plans, he's turning some of them against each other, or he's avoiding them in this way or that. He's worried that Olinder might get in the way of some of his plans here, and he needs to be a little proactive and maybe ensuring that she doesn't meddle in what he's working on. So he brings the fight to her, when it initially seems as if she's maybe trying to take her out, like remove her from the game. And so we're treated with an invasion of her kingdom called Dolorum, I believe, which is because she's sad, correct. Right? She's grief. So exactly. And so it's this fight of his demons sort of sieging her town, her place, with the Nighthaunt all sort of rushing to her defense. And it's not necessarily the most defensible position because it's a town of ghosts, right? Like they don't need walls and stuff. Like that's not their fortifications, but rather it's just their fortifications. Yeah, no. You got me. Their defensive is just to bum people out, right? Like that's how they keep people out of there. It's just they just make them really morose.
This is a new thing and a cool thing about Be'lakor. So I'm going to tie it into a question that we had from the Discord from Elf Kenny. And he says, how does Be'lakor go about dominating demons for his army? And the way that he dominates lesser demons is that he literally brands them. And then they become his service. But then we also have a couple of greater demons that are also in his service. And those, he goes and finds out their true name. And then by using their true name, he can dominate them and make them a part of his army. And that's from the White Dwarf story. You should go read it because it's super cool.
That's fun.
But the intriguing part about that is that when he brands them, he actually makes them his. They are aspects of Khorne, but they no longer have the emotion per se of Khorne or the emotion of Slaanesh. And the reason that I say that is because Be'lakor allows Slaanesh to fight alongside Khorne and allows Tzeentch to fight alongside Nurgle or Tzeentch along Khorne. It doesn't matter. He is in so absolute control over these demons that they cannot fight. And this is really specifically explored in the White Dwarf story, where he can literally stop a bloodthirster from attacking a Lord of Change if he so chooses. And the reason why this is important is because Be'lakor is the master of Chaos Undivided. Now, previously, Chaos Undivided just meant I'm not going to give a mark to any units in my army, or I'm going to be able to take all the marks. But the way that it is expressed in this battle tome is that I am actually able to stop chaos from fighting chaos. I literally am able to heal the divisions between the gods. And the army that he has so complete a control that he can send them forward. And so when he goes into Dolorum, you would think that the misery would actually stop, for example, Slaanesh from being ecstatic, would stop, for example, Tzeentch from scheming. But because they are branded with this brand of Be'lakor, they do suffer some casualties, but the vast majority are just like, well, but this is what Be'lakor told me to do, so I'm going to go do it. And so I don't think that a normal chaos host of, say, Khorne or Tzeentch would have actually been able to do this action. I think this is something that specifically that Be'lakor and his army of absolute control is able to do because he now has such complete control over his army. So I thought that was well played and well explained in this specific part of the book.
And I mean, I guess to build on that, it helps in that like the other chaos forces probably wouldn't even attempt something like this because the whole drive of this campaign isn't like to glorify the gods. There's like a longer term plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something we usually see from chaos demons. So it's definitely a fun extra thing. One thing that I feel like I remember, but maybe I'm crazy, so I just want to double check. Does Be'lakor mention for one of the reasons he's coming here is because did Olander curse him?
Yeah, I'm reading it right now.
Yep.
Page 33.
Yeah.
Because he killed her in the 8 points.
Right.
And when she is killed, she has a curse.
Yep. And so I know, Aaron, you'd mentioned that like he was worried about her, but I had remembered that he was specifically worried about her curse being on him and being in the way. And he wanted to be able to find a way to make sure that that wasn't going to cause him any trouble beyond the fact of Nighthaunt just gumming up the works and getting in the way of
they're always gumming up the works, you guys.
They are. They're everywhere now. I mean, like, you turn around and there's another ghost.
Don't turn around. That's my trick. Just don't do it.
Whoa.
Don't turn around.
That's a book.
Sorry.
But I suppose we should probably finish talking about his campaign into Delorum. So I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, his plan is not just to attack Delorum, but to specifically go after the Sanctum of Anguish.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Correct.
And
Terrifying.
it does sound bad, doesn't it? And so this is specifically, we find out where Olander's remains lie. And so I guess I wasn't really aware that she was like tethered to the realm in some way because of her bones, but I guess she is, because as he gets into her like inner sanctum, she kind of, I don't know where she is at that moment exactly, somewhere else in Delorum, but she's like, oh crap, this could be bad, and zips back over there to be like, I need to stop him from killing me, because she could actually die, which is sort of weird to think about for somebody who's already dead.
That which is dead cannot die.
So this ties into two things, I think, in the lore. Number one is a Josh Reynolds thing, where Josh Reynolds has really put forth this idea in Nagash the Undying King that the Mortarks are basically Horcruxes of Nagash's soul, to borrow a term from Harry Potter.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
He imparts a part of his soul into them, which gives them the power to be a Mortark, right? But we also need to take another important part here, which is that Olander is Olander because of who it is that she was. She was cursed by Nagash to be the person who spread sorrow, because she spread sorrow in her mortal life by killing all of her husbands so that she could gain complete control over this kingdom, Delorum, right? And just like the Tomb Kings in the old world, where they were the same souls that were resurrected in the same body that raised from the dead and had this undying kingdom, the same thing is true for most of the characters in Age of Sigmar. To my understanding, they tend to raise the soul into the body that it was. But when the soul is released from the body, it becomes something completely different and completely unique. So when Sigmar takes a soul for a Stormcast, he has to put some of himself in it to make it a Stormcast. He has to bind it to a realm. And so Olander's bones bind her to the realm of Shyish, but also allow her to be who she is. And if her bones are destroyed, she is no longer someone from Shyish. She is now just a spirit, unbound from the realms, is my understanding. And perhaps this is me being crazy, but this is the understanding I have gained from reading all the lore, is that who you are is actually a very important point. And the Night Haunt specifically are cursed by who they were in their mortal life. But if you were for, say, a death rattle, you could raise any spirit into a body, or you could raise a body without a soul, and that's totally fine. They would work for you. You don't need to combine those two together. But the Night Haunt in particular are cursed by the acts that they performed in life. And so if her body was destroyed, then she would no longer have an anchor to become who she was. Aaron, you seem like you have a point to make.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say Lady Olinder actually is someone who doesn't want her bones stabbed by Bellacor's big old sword as he swings it down from up above and hovers it an inch from her bones. And he basically says, let's chat. Let's talk. I beat you once. I can beat you again. But I got an offer for you. I got a plan. Let's negotiate here a little bit. And so they talk through the idea that, like, look, I got this curse on me. I'm not a big fan of that. If you could go ahead and turn that off, that'd be great, because I got big dreams. I got big plans, and you can come along with me to ride this rocket to the moon, sweetie. He wouldn't. Well, maybe he would. I wouldn't talk like that. This is Be'lakor talking, of course. And he says. And he basically spells a little bit of his plan out. He entices her with the idea that he's going to be able to fiddle with the souls of Stormcast and perhaps make it so that they are a little bit more available as a resource to those who maybe deal in souls. And if she can sort of coordinate with him a little bit, there's something in it for both of them. They can put their differences aside just for a moment while they enact this grand plan. And then once they're successful, because of course they're going to be successful, they can get back to their feud and, destroy each other. And who cares? Like, we'll sort that out later. She's not really in a great position to negotiate. She reveals that, like, he's got an hourglass above his head, and it's got sand trickling down, and apparently something terrible is going to happen when it lands, because all hourglasses are evil. You can quote me on that.
That's her hourglass.
Isn't it over him?
Well, she summons it basically to say, okay, deal. You have until this time to enact this plan. If you don't, then deal's off.
This is a Night Haunt endless spell too. If I'm not mistaken, there literally is a glass.
They use hourglasses all over the place.
Correct.
And I think she broke an hourglass to kill the Celestin Prime too. Like back in okay, now I don't remember if this is actually true. She broke something to kill the Celestin Prime. I don't know if it was an hourglass or not. But they do reach an understanding, though admittedly Be'lakor, like, from a negotiation standpoint, kind of has the upper hand on account of the fact that the sword is right over her body.
Sort of Damocles here.
Yeah. But she agrees, because how else are you going to get the Night Haunt involved in this story? I mean, for plot reasons, she needs to agree to work along with him. And a sweet, unholy alliance has been formed.
Yeah.
People making friends. I love it.
Yeah. This is the point where I don't know if Nagash is still around, because would Lady Olinder have made this deal with Be'lakor and not been smoten from existence in an instant?
Well, if she thinks that she can get Stormcast souls for Nagash, I feel like she would want to take that deal and be like, hey, Nagash, look how awesome I am. Look what I got for you. Some juicy Stormcast souls, the best kind of souls, the only kind of souls that you can't get your mitts on.
Yeah. Bony mitts. Yeah. And I want to say that, like, I think they were for, I think they're for, like, Nagash. Like, that was the goal. Like, she's still working as an agent for Nagash, regardless of whether he's around or not right now. I still think that she acknowledges that, like, this is for Nagash. But fortunately for her, it doesn't sound like her job's all that hard. I think this then cuts to them enacting this plan, right? And really all she needs to do is provide sort of I'll say cover for what Bellacor's, plot actually is. And what he's doing is he's making inroads in Shaman, not necessarily leading a large invasion force per se, but rather they're fighting strategic battles all across the realm, with the expressed goal, not expressing it, it's a secret. That's the opposite of express goal, of destabilizing and corrupting and like destroying a number of like very important realm gates that are all part of that realm system, that realm web, the system of interconnected realm gates that had been disrupted by the explosion in the Silver Tower, to sum it up, right? And so while he's doing that, and we'll get into, there's some interesting tidbits into that, Olinder's job is to just send her ghosts every which way, all over the place, to sort of serve as distractions throughout Shaman to buy him time. So every army that's fighting an invasion force in Night Haunt aren't defending the realm gates from Bellacor's demons, which I guess makes sense. That adds up.
Yeah. And I think it's almost like not even so much as it's just a distraction, but also just because I think these realm gates they're not like main realm gates. He's not hitting the ones that are in a lot of like populated areas first. A lot of these areas are sort of outliers, and like it seems random. Like if you were to not be able to focus on what was happening with the demon attacks, it would be like, well, that's kind of random. And so Olinder's forces are all attacking populated areas and making it seem like the Night Haunt are specifically trying to make inroads against the Sigmarite settlements, which obviously that's going to seem like the bigger deal because you don't want all your followers and your people getting spooked.
Yeah.
And they even say that they're seeing numbers of Night Haunt unseen since the advent of like the Necroquake. Like it seems as if like another Necroquake must have happened. There's so many Night Haunt here. So you can get a sense of like it almost as if the book didn't do a great job describing that. It really they just said, oh, there's that many Night Haunt. So like it's just like one or two lines that they say that I never really got a sense that was that's what was going on, as honestly, because you're kind of following the Bellacor side and less the ghost side. But like that must have been harrowing to like go through that a second time, sort of centrally localized in Shaman. So I suppose they did their job well.
Yeah, just like Teclis was going into Shyish and spreading hope, now Lady Olinder is going into Realm of Metal and spreading despair and sorrow. So that's kind of a nice counter from the last book to this one.
Nice. Define nice.
Yeah. Bellacor is sneakily going in and dismantling all these different realm gates. It kind of goes in one by one and just destabilizes them, takes them out, and really just starts making a mess of the Rested Wastes from one end to the other.
And as he's doing so, there's a variety in how he's doing it, right? Because he has all these disparate demon forces underneath him. So one of them is getting corrupted by a Lord of Change, and then another one is getting taken over by Nurgle sorcerers. And so every which one is a little different, and that also lends itself to the sort of the randomness of what's going on, because it never really seems that like any one unifying force is doing all this. And it's worth noting that they're not just taking order realm gates, right? They're taking out already controlled chaos realm gates, those gates that the demons are using to enter the realms from the realm of chaos. And so literally their home bases, demons fighting demons. They were talking about how like the Khorne demons were literally dicing up other Khorne bloodletters and things that were defending this realm gate, ambushing them and then corrupting the realm gate and destroying it, such that there's no rhyme. It seemed as if there was no rhyme or reason as to what they were doing here.
We need to revisit our dwarven friends, because as you mentioned, as these seemingly random attacks are happening, we still have the ships flying around, and specifically Endrin Master Humbledson, who is the one who had gone off to the Rested Wastes after the explosion to go check all of that out. And as they're surveying the destruction in Kaman, they start to realize that something doesn't feel right about all of the attacks that have been happening. And they decide that this should be investigated further. And so we get a call back to, and I'm not going to be able to remember her first name, but
Imolda.
Bera's daughter, Imolda Bera's daughter. So important character. She's now shown up in 2 Broken Realms stories and is playing a pivotal role in both of them. So her cartography skills come to bear again. And she has mapped out like all of this stuff that's happening throughout the realm. And I guess they don't really talk about this. I'm not quite sure how the airships are able to pass so freely through this realm that's being attacked by Nighthaunt and Chaos, but evidently they are.
Two very aerial armies, right? Like 2 things that you would think be able to take out airships pretty, not easily, but like.
And maybe it's just because it's like one random ship every so often. They just don't pay attention. I don't know. But either way.
Yeah, the demons and the Nighthaunt are targeting realm gates, right? They're not actually involved in doing a running battle. They're far more doing surgical strikes. So.
Yeah, hit and run sort of stuff. So, I mean, they may not be in numbers yet to be able to even catch a ship as it flies by. But so they sort of get together, they talk about what's going on and decide that they should alert the Geldrad, which I take it is the like leading council of all the different skyports. I'm not up on all of my Caradron lore, but
well, you could listen to the Mortal Realms story phase where we talked about the Caradron overlords.
And I definitely should. And you listener, you should as well if you haven't.
Don't worry, Phil. All our listeners already have.
So. I'm sure they have. But so they then head off to take care of that. But on their way, lo and behold, they see some fire slayers getting attacked.
So basically, they were going through a pass that they knew to be a place that had a realm gate, and they saw a massive ball of fire. They're like, well, that's probably not good. So they went to what's called Golgrimstock to just check out what's going on, because I believe they had some kind of an agreement or, shipping rights to the area. And it turns out that they are being just absolutely slaughtered. The fire slayers are. And so they
that's right.
They lay down their little flying ladder, and they managed to rescue about a dozen, maybe 24 fire slayers. And basically every single fire slayer, as they get on board the ship and they retreat away, they've lost their hold. So they all just take oaths then and there to take revenge upon those who have destroyed it. So
the Berezek Doom.
Correct. And the horrors, they were attacked by Tzeentch, who destabilized yet another realm gate, yet another node in the astral matrix. So
yeah. And now I remember this. And I specifically remember this because I remember how crazy it was. There's like this little story excerpt where they're talking to them about what happened after they get on the ship and recounting the tale of what happened to Golgrimstock. But they make a point of pointing out how he couldn't even imagine how this fire slayer was still able to tell this story because his flesh had been melted off of his bones, and like the bones in his face are exposed while he's telling this story. And it's just like, how crazy are fire slayers? Like so that they crazy. Can they can actually put up with that kind of punishment and just be like, yeah, whatever, I'll just shrug that off, rub some dirt in it.
How do we know his face wasn't already melted before Tzeentch showed up? Like he was just on fire to begin with.
Yeah, maybe. Could be.
That's just how they do it.
But either way, I think this is the second time we hear from Gromthy. Although I don't remember what he talks about at this point. I think he's basically just saying that like that they need to help out. And I think he's serving as
I think he's serving as like a conscience a little bit. Like he's the angel on the shoulder saying, we should really bring this back to the group, and we should probably, rally the troops and help the Humies.
Got to work together.
Yeah, we got to work together. So all in all, he's just being a pretty chill dude. This Gromthy's pretty cool. I wonder what his deal is.
Yeah.
Like he's got a story.
Maybe.
So with that Dwarden interlude, can we go hang out at the? Oh no, we got to do the Trouble in Heaven now too.
Yeah, we got to do the Genesis Gate.
Man, we got so much before the Gate of White Gold. Man. You gotta just hold your horses.
Well, you know what? I'm bowing out until we get to the Gate of White Gold.
All right. Wow. Well,
you heard it here, folks.
Yeah, he's gone. He's abandoned us.
That's me walking away.
Just like Rodney.
Got a lot of good ideas.
Yeah. But yeah, so we wrap up with the Cradron. They're heading off to talk to the Geldrad. We now zipping back to talk to our man Gardas because he kind of got splatted.
Yeah.
The greater demon Nurgle, right?
Uh-huh.
Just got him good.
Oh, guys, I came back real quick. It's nuts because he gets splatted by a greater demon Nurgle, but like in one story, he took like 9 of them out at once or something. Like in one of the previous books, and like only one was able to take him out this time. Well, that's BS.
To be fair, he'd been holding that gate for quite a while. We don't even know how many demons he'd been fighting before then.
There was like 9 of them. All right, now I'm out of here.
So he's mad. He's like, those Seraphon guys, right? What the actual heck?
What is real?
What the actual hex? What?
There you go.
I thought you walked out. You came back in again, man.
Surprise, guys! I was here the whole time.
Oh man, just
you can't get
just like Be'lakor. But yeah, so those Seraphon guys, what the heck? So Gardas is back in Azir, right? I think he's back in Azir. I hope he's back in Azir because that's what I remember. And so he decides that he's going to go and figure out what happened. So he goes to the top of Mount Celestian, where there is a shrine to Dracothian, and decides he's going to pray for a vision, and he's not leaving until he gets some answers.
He explicitly says that he's not going anywhere.
I mean, he does. I mean, he's just like, no, I need answers. I'm not going anywhere. So he hangs out up there for a while, and I believe I don't know if he's just like given a vision of Dracothian, or if Dracothian actually comes down and is like, all right, and like guides his spirit up into the stars, and then he is greeted by a figure behind a blinding light, sitting atop a stone throne with a golden mask. And at that point, you're like, they didn't say it, but that's definitely Croak. And so he's asking questions of like, what's going on? Why is this happening? And he's given these visions to sort of explain what's going to happen. And like, hey, don't worry about that stuff. You got bigger fish to fry. So he first gets a vision of Excelsius, and it's bad. The walls are going badly.
Yeah.
The walls are broken. It's overrun with destruction forces, greenskins, and gargants. And he's like, whoa, we've got to do something about this. And the being basically is like, no, I need you to do something else, and gives him another vision, which shows Vindicarum being attacked. And at that point, he realizes that that's where the Hallowed Knights are needed, and that he needs to take all the Hallowed Knights that he can to go and help bolster the defenses of Vindicarum. Because stuff's about to go down.
This vision is illuminating in that it's not even just those 2 cities. He sees like 1 or 2 other things. Like there's winged coiling mists. So he gives a hint that there's some shadowy involvement on this.
There's some foreshadowing, right?
Yeah, there you go. Wish. And then there's also there's a geometrically perfect city out in a crystalline like desert or something. And I'm still not 100% sure what that's about. Like that's not super clear to me.
I don't either.
So there's other aspects of this vision, but it's clear. I mean, we already knew, and especially now we know a lot more because we saw the the Warhammer Fest previews today, so we really have a much better view that like a lot of this Broken Realm stuff is going to culminate in like an attack on Excelsis. So we kind of had a feeling that was coming up. But Vindicarum is more important, at least as far as Croak is concerned, and they're going to ship off and come to its aid and defenses there.
And I don't know that it's that Vindicarum is more important, but it's where Gardas needs to be.
Good distinction. Yeah.
And so he's like, no, Pawn, you need to go there and you need to bring your guys to handle that problem for me, because that's what needs to happen for my plan to work. Now, of course, he doesn't say any of that because he doesn't actually say anything. But
I was just going to say we're editorializing a little bit. I think what he actually says is no.
He doesn't even say no. He just like there is a forceful energy that just informs Gardas that it means no.
But you're right. You're right. Is that a quote? He just feels no.
Yeah, he feels the presence of no.
Sure. And then Gardas whispers, "Only the faithful."
Oh, only the faithful.
As
you do, because only the faithful. But yeah, so we sort of get this interlude, I guess. It kind of breaks up some of the rest of what's going on in Kamon. But then we're like, okay, so we know the Hallowed Knights are heading to Vindicarum, but other than that, let's get back to the main stuff. And now, Aaron, if you will, the Gate of White Gold.
And I will. So there's this Gate of White Gold, right? No, so it's a realm gate that connects to Vindicarum out into like the frontier a little bit, and it's a way for them to bring in resources, because Vindicarum's like up at the top of a caldera of like a volcano or something. Mm-hmm. And so this is one way to transport things. So it's important for the survival of the town, because they bring in a lot of import exports go through this gate. But it turns out this is one of the last gates that Be'lakor needs to corrupt or take out, because it's presumably also part of this interconnected matrix of all these realm gates that he's been attacking. But because it's sort of a strategic defensive location, it's a little bit, maybe a slightly tougher nut to crack for him. But crack it he shall try. And so he sends his forces at it. He's got 3 generals, Karzakos, Gebelax, and Phatanix. Thanks for whoever wrote those down in here.
I got you.
He's throwing them at the free guild that is sort of defending this place. Obviously, the humans are fairly outmatched, but they're doing what they can, and they're holding out for as long as they can to defend this location. Things look dire. They're on the back foot, but who should roll up but a storm host, sort of lightnings down to come and save the day. And it is the purple and white, I want to say, of the Sigmarite Brotherhood. And this is not in any technical sense, but one of them, I don't know, minor storm hosts, but they are in the region and are here to protect this gate, because it has sort of the significant importance to the city. And they, with the help of the Stormcast, the defenses are much more robust, and they seem to be holding off the demons. And it seems as maybe this isn't going to be something that Be'lakor can overcome. Fortunately, but no, unfortunately, Be'lakor has a trick up his sleeve. I think we maybe had been introduced to this plot point earlier, but it's fun to bring it up now instead, in that he knew that things might be difficult assaulting this realm gate, and so he planned for it, because apparently he's a real big planner. I don't know if we stressed that enough in this episode, but he, at great cost, made a deal, made an agreement, made a business arrangement with some Skaven of Clan Eshin, and he sent them on a little secret sabotage mission, and the camera changes scenes.
Sabotage!
Yeah, that's another book. I'm 2 books richer. It switches scenes to the infiltration of the Skaven into yet another Silver Tower. I hope you guys weren't done with Silver Towers. I hope you weren't tired of the Silver Towers, because we're back in them. The goal here, at least as far as Be'lakor is concerned, is not to destroy another one. That's excessive. Like, he's on the side of chaos. Like, he doesn't want to see all the Silver Towers taken out. But maybe he wouldn't mind if a grenade or like a bomb blew up inside of one, as long as the whole thing doesn't come crumbling down. Like we can afford a slight explosion, a little explosion inside, which is what this cave in do.
Just a small bomb.
Just a tiny small
a smidge of warp lightning.
Can yet again destabilize a wide range of already destabilized realm gates. It blows up. This silver tower also connected to a lot of different realm gates, and they're already weakened. They're already cracked and trembling. And this bomb explodes and really pushes all of them over the edge and triggers off a wide chain reaction across all of these different realm gates. You guys can't see my hands, but I'm waving wildly.
The gesticulation is intense.
Yeah, in doing so, kicks off a wave of sort of chaotic energy that blankets the sky, both here and across the realm, basically in different pockets that are sort of coalescing in the skies of Chaman. This is where the attack on the Gate of White Gold, couldn't remember, but then I read it, the tide turns against the forces of order yet again, because now as the demons start taking out Stormcast one by one, the lightning rockets up to the sky, but it does not pierce it. It gets caught in the sort of blanket of chaotic energy up above, and it doesn't go anywhere. It's just sort of sitting there waiting to be harvested, perhaps. And as the Stormcast start dropping one by one, they aren't being reforged. And that really turns, like, emotionally starts turning the battle as well. And the Stormcast realize what's going on. Like, oh no, my buddy just isn't going home. He's just right there. I can see him. And the demons are able to overwhelm the defensive forces here, both Free Guild and Stormcast, and eventually wipe them out. Not to fast forward some exciting fights, but they drop them.
I mean, the Sigmarite Brotherhood, it sounds like, and maybe it's not like every last one, but it certainly sounds like the storm host of Sigmarite Brotherhood is no more. They are dead, and they were not able to be reforged. So they're gone forever. So hopefully they, like you said, hopefully they're a minor storm host, because they're out of the story.
I think the point it was trying to make was that, yes, the Sigmarite Brotherhood was wiped out to a man. It might have even said as much. However, the souls still exist.
It's true. They're just
not in any state that they want to be in.
They're being ripped apart by chaos, right?
Either they're ripped apart by chaos, but if not here, elsewhere? Can't they also get scooped up by Nighthaunt? Like, aren't the Nighthaunt like skimming off the top? And like
they can.
So this also brings in a short story that was released last Friday, where they had a bunch of Stormcasts going into the oubliette of Nagash and rescuing Stormcast Lightning Geists. So there is a theoretical out. So even if the souls of the Stormcast that don't go to Azir get captured by the Nighthaunt and get stored away, there is still a way for them to get rescued. So the Sigmarite Brotherhood has been wiped out to a man. There is still a MacGuffin that allows them to come back individually, if not as a whole chamber. So that is a possibility. The interesting thing to me is that, and you'll be the judge of that, exactly, is that they've been holding all these lightning geists in the soul mills up in Azir for forever. That was actually one of the key points in Soul Wars by Josh Reynolds. And so we've got a lot of these free radical souls spinning all over, particularly in Azir with all this going on. So I'm wondering if we might end up in Azir at some point in the Broken Realms saga, or if this is going to be more contained to the other 7 realms. So it's possible.
Certainly be interesting.
Take me to Azir, you cowards. I want to go. I know nothing about the place.
Maybe in the Kragnos book, we will see Azir, but we'll have to wait for the next episode.
I don't want to wait.
It's fair. I do think there's one other thing that I don't think we mentioned, but like when the chaos energy is released into the sky, Be'lakor makes some quip about like, and so began the era of cursed skies, and like they made a point of having that be in title case. So it's like this is a big deal. And I think it also would suggest that this is probably not going to be entirely contained inside Kamon.
Yep.
We will see. That's speculation, to be sure. So if I'm wrong, you can let me know.
I don't mean to jump ahead, but I think later in the book it explicitly says that it starts to spread into the other realms.
Correct.
So I think it's already
Okay.
It's already starting.
All right.
So you're right. Take solace in the fact that you are correct.
Yeah. We do have a moment in the sun for the cruel glass Cruciators here. So we introduced the new model that has been given to the Night Haunt. And these guys are just like, I don't know, puppet masters of souls. Does that seem like a valid, from what I've heard?
I mean, what they describe them as, they almost sound like torturers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they take the souls of their enemies, and then I don't know how you torture a soul, but evidently they do.
In Soul Wars, Nagash literally pulls pieces out from the soul one at a time.
So that's probably what they're doing.
Yeah.
Try listening to the Moral Realms, and you'll know all about.
Oh my I think no, but like seriously, I mean, it's kind of cool that we get this much exposition about a brand new model, because usually they're like, hey, look, cool new models, and we're all like, yeah, that's awesome. But here we're basically finding out about like their backstory and how they work and everything about them at the same time as the models are actually being released. So it's pretty cool. And then they also made points of referencing how these guys were really crucial to very important to finishing off this siege of the walls of Vindicarum, because somehow they are enabling or empowering the other Night Haunt around them, so that the weapons of the Stormcast just seem to stop affecting the Night Haunt when they're near a Crowgrass Cruciator, which is probably some reference to how they play on the tabletop that I am not aware of.
So we had the Executioner or Night Haunt. We had the Jailer Night Haunt with the like. So now we've got the Torturer Night Haunt as well. I feel like we're completing a set, sort of.
Yeah. All the terrible bad things.
I didn't say it was a good set. I didn't think it was a good set. Yeah.
The Accountant Night Haunt, the Lawyer Night Haunt. Like, those are coming. Mark my words.
Like a tax collector? Like,
no, that's
the OCR.
A spreadsheet Night Haunt.
Also the OCR.
Don't get me excited. And I think, unless you guys have anything to sneak in there, that might be the end of Act 2.
It is.
That's me closing the book again.
And it's the end of Part 2. Part D.
Act 3, Cursed Skies. Phil, you mentioned Cursed Skies. Here it is again. It must be a big deal.
Probably.
So what happened? So now that the skies are cursed, apparently that seems to have been Be'lakor's big plan. It almost seems like that was like his whole plan. And this next act is like incidental, or like just sort of icing on the cake a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's gotta finish the job, right?
Well, yeah, but what is finishing the, like, you'd think finishing the job was making the skies all messed up. Hey, do you love me now, Chaos Daddies? Apparently not.
Answer, no.
No, not. We don't know your name, man. No, apparently he needs to take a city out too. And like his reasoning is, it's an affront to the Chaos God, so I need to go take it out. I mean, there's countless cities.
Well, okay, so he does make the point though of saying how, or maybe not him, but in this story they make the point of saying that the followers of Sigmar in Vindicarum are like especially dedicated and zealots, and like there's flagellants everywhere, and like even just the regular townsfolk are like, yeah, we are ready to lay our lives down for Sigmar. And in fact, that's coming up here pretty soon, although
Careful
not
what you asked for, man,
quite yet.
Yeah, I think also part of it is making the Cursed Skies is cool, but actually trapping the Stormcast underneath the Cursed Skies is better. And so I think he wants some fodder, and he wants to repay the deal that he made with Lady Olander, because he said, I'm going to give you some Stormcast souls. And he hasn't really done that yet. So
You're right. Yeah, casting the net isn't enough. You need to catch something with it. So that okay, I buy that. So Vindicarum's on the menu, and whereas before they were sort of pockets of like hit and run, like secretive sort of attacks on these realm gates, he no longer needs the illusion of like secrecy or
Yeah, it's time to.
I can't think of another word.
Bring down the hammer.
Yeah, he's leading his forces full on to take down Vindicarum. So as he's marching or flying or whatever it is the demons do, Gardas does show up to Vindicarum with his brand of Hallowed Knights, and he rolls up
Steel Souls, I think.
Steel Souls, yeah, specifically, and he's there to bolster the defenses. He's a little put off because he doesn't like the people because like they're a little too devout. And followers of Sigmar, and this is coming from a guy who loves Sigmar, and he's like, "No, this is even too much for me. Tone it down, you guys. Crank it down to like a 7 or a 6." And
You're
then he feels
here. We need you down here.
Need you down here. And he almost feels the same way about the Celestial Vindicators. This is also one of their homes as well, and there he's more like, well, you guys are way too violent. Like, cool your jets, man. And he doesn't seem like he doesn't find a lot of common ground with the Vindicators. He explains sort of the vision that they saw, and the Vindicators almost don't care. They're like, all right, fine, we'll let them come. We'll like you said before, Phil, we'll gladly lay down our lives to defend this place. And he's like, well, I mean, let's see if we can avoid that. Let's see how it goes.
So I do have one quick thing. The Lord Celestant of the Celestial Vindicators, his name is Kostos Volkar, which is interesting because there was a character in the old world called Volkmar the Grim, who was a intensely devout warrior priest of Sigmar. So possible tie-in there.
Yeah, maybe.
2 points, making a line, seeing what you're laying down, picking it up,
all right,
liking it. And I think in like basically getting the lay of the land when he shows up, he's like, so hey, Celestial Vindicators, what's going on? Isn't this your place? And basically finds out that like, yeah, we don't really have too many guys here to help defend the city because we're like waging war all over Kaimon because that's just what we do. And we didn't think about this. And now we're spread too thin to actually defend any one place. And Gardas is probably just like face palming hard because it's like, man, I got to come in here and clean up this mess.
Which hurts because he's steel. So get it? Facepalm, steel. So sorry. Never mind.
And it's while they're tending to their defenses, the camera shifts, and we head on over to the meeting of the minds, I guess, of all the leadership of the Karajan overlords. We're in Shaman. This is where they typically kick it, and all the high admirals are in a council. The Geldrad, and in the neutral territory of Madrolta, which is actually where they first got together, I don't know if it was centuries ago or a long time ago, where they had initially signed the Karajan Code in the first place. They've all reassembled at this location to talk about, like, well, what are we going to do about this? Per what's his face suggestion,
which is a fun callback because the Malta conference was actually ended, I think, one of the world wars or something like that. So it's AOSified. Yeah. So this is a pretty cool thing, in my opinion. We basically have this massive gathering of all of the Caradron overlords, and it just ends up in a incredibly large argument about everybody not being able to agree with anybody else, and everybody else wanting money, and all agreeing that Vindicarum really looks to be in trouble, and we should probably do something about that because that's kind of in our home realm, and they're disabling all these realm gates, and this is really bad for business. But Zilfin only cares about business from, say, the Gate of White Gold, but, Mornar is like, well, I don't really care about that, but I care about this gate over here, and they just end up haggling for forever until who should walk in but Gromthy. And Gromthy basically walks in, kicks down the door, and it's just like, hey, all you stupid people, come and listen to me. And they're like, hey, the code doesn't allow you to speak. And he's like, I don't care about your stupid code, you stupid people. The thing is,
Still a direct quote.
Yeah,
exactly. Because
that's actually how they wrote it in the book.
It was wonderful writing, inspired. So
The best words.
because of all of the realm gates being broken and everything else going on at the moment, the ether gold is actually starting to swirl around Vindicarum. And so Gromthy's like, you idiots, if you just go and help Vindicarum, you're going to make a massive amount of profit because, number one, they're going to have to make agreements with you if you go help them. But number two, that's where the ether gold is. So why are you even arguing? And basically everyone stops at that moment and is like, that's a really good idea. We should just go do that. Let's just go all do that because that sounds super awesome.
Well, they do leave it on a bit of a cliffhanger in that he basically forces a vote to say, hey, let's stop fighting and figure out what we're going to do. And I don't remember which of the admirals it is, but basically they say everybody's come down on their sides except for one admiral. It's all going to come down to her. And then
Barrack Thring, the really old school one.
Yeah. And then camera cuts away.
Yeah.
Hard.
You'll never know. Like her hand.
Never.
Like
Tune in next time.
She does a you never know which way she's going to go, up or down. It's not Caesar, but you know what I mean. Cuts back to Vindicarum, where all the fun's happening, and Bellacor's arrived, and his forces are ascending up to the city because it's up at the top of this caldera, and they are wrecking house basically. Like there's a lot of shantytown slums like on the outskirts and down below the city, and they obviously are serving as no sort of impediment to Bellacor's advance whatsoever. Though they do throw a lot of what we would consider like the City of Sigmar type folks, like they're the devoted at the demons like advancing, just sort of to buy the more heavily armored defensible positions time. So like a lot of people are just sort of marching to their death, like these flagellants and other like devoted folks just getting sent through the meat grinder of demons. But I don't want to say they're glad to do it, but maybe they are because they find it's their calling to
for Sigmar.
Yeah. So be it. They were called to do so, and they're gladly give their lives, like we said before. But in doing so, it allows those up top to set up their defensible positions. They're just raining down from different like cannon batteries and Hellstorm rocket shooter things. And I think some of the gyrocopters are flying around, just lighting people up. And so the ascent doesn't end up being an easy one for the something of the First Prince. Legion of the First Prince. Yeah, as they're ascending, trying to get up into the city.
Also, Be'lakor is here. Right? He's been kind of directing everything from the shadows. But Be'lakor is like, nope, right here, right now, watching the world wake up from history. Here I am. This is my place.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this happen.
Well, I heard it.
Particularly grim detail is that he has made himself a throne of the recently killed and conquered people of Vindicarum. And I even mentioned that some of them aren't dead. And it's like, that's a unnecessary little detail, but it sort of shows you just how messed up he is. Because you have to think of like, what are the logistics of that, right? Like he had to have demons specifically go and grab these people and come build him a chair. And he's a big guy, so it's going to probably be a lot of bodies.
Not a small chair. Also, it's a war. What is he sitting down for? Stand up, man.
Yeah.
So it seems
he's like watching from the hill. He's like people in the Civil War who were like, yeah, this is fun. This is entertainment. And then they realized, no, never mind. This is terrible.
They're sending the hill, but the defenses seem like they're holding out. The combined forces, the Free Guild and the Stormcast, are holding their own. As Star Wars taught us, they've got the high ground, so nothing can beat that.
Don't try it.
Don't even try it. You get chopped in half. Until a plan is hatched, I don't know where it comes from or who comes up with it, but I do know that Atrazan, the Immolator, the Immolator, I talked about him before, obviously to man all these cannons and rifles and other projectile-based weapons, there needs to be stockpile of ammunition and I guess gunpowder or some Age of Sigmar equivalent to that, and they have to store it somewhere. And so this immolator, it's in his name, makes a beeline to this stock of explosive
Ammo
materials.
dump.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and is able to light it up, and it's situated as such that the explosion rocks the city and blows a hole in one of the walls of the caldera, allowing entry into town for the wave of demons. And so that proves enough, a weakness, a chink in the armor that allows the invasion to pour in and take the fight to the streets. So whereas they were very defensible before, they've lost that advantage, and the demons are now kicking butt. It's also worth noting that Loris Grimm, Gardas' second in command as Lord Castellan, was right by the explosion. And he got lit up. I take no pleasure in reporting this to you, but he was in the blast.
Launched into the air and then splatted.
Presumed dead.
Well, and the other thing is that it's very apparent that not only has Be'lakor come to take this city, or as he called it, to murder the city, but he has done his homework, right? Like, he knows where everything is, and he starts to pinpoint the weak points or the places that will cause the most damage, right?
Yeah.
So it is not at all a random chaos demon horde just rampaging mindlessly. Everything is being orchestrated to his plan.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, whereas before he was observing at a distance, now that the hole's sort of been blown into the wall, his demons start pouring in. The first prince himself then makes himself known, and he rolls up the city himself and starts, wrecking fools left and right. At some point, I don't know how the handoff is made. He finds himself in a position, a very visible position, and he raises up a captive that he's got his hands on, and lo and behold, it's actually Loris Grimm, who was not exploded completely when the ammunition blew up, but was captured by the demons, and now Be'lakor's got him. Garda sees this. Rushes up to go save his friend, but at the last moment, or at some point, Be'lakor sticks his Sword of Shadows, or wherever it's called. Actually, it might be Sword of Shadows.
It's the Sword of Shadows,
and kills Grimm right there on the spot, while Gardas has to watch. And Grimm's lightning, tries to rocket away, but he has nowhere to go. Obviously, the cursed skies are still cursed; they're not uncursed, still cursed. And it appears as if Grimm is now dead for good.
Which is sad. I was super sad about that.
Yeah, I'm super sad. I love Grimm.
But that being said, this was a very cool moment because Be'lakor does the pointing finger that's on his miniature while holding Grimm, right? Like I was like, oh, that's a cool actual moment to make this a pivotal moment of the storyline right now.
Because he basically sees Gardas and he's like, oh yeah, and then he like calls out to have Loris Grimm brought forward and be like, hey, this guy's your buddy, right? And then stabs him because he's evil like that. I guess he's got to prove it to everybody.
In case you didn't know,
In case you didn't know, I'm evil. He's got to prove it to all the Chaos Daddies back home. So after watching Loris Grimm, his best buddy in the whole wide world, get stabbed by the Sword of Shadows and have his spirit lightning shoot up into the chaos skies and not go back home to be reforged, Gardas kind of loses his cool. Usually he's like real placid, level-headed. It's not one to be rash, but he's just like, you know what? This guy, I'm getting him. And they throw caution to the wind, and him and the few remaining, I don't remember what the numbers they list at this point, but it was not a lot of Stormcast left at this point. And they just charge in and are like, we're gonna take down Be'lakor. We're gonna do this. And at that point, when we see him charge in, somehow when that fighting happens, I don't know if it was Bellicor or what, but basically it turns into a duel. It's not like a full clash of armies like you'd expect. Everyone stands back and just watching between First Prince, giant demon, and single Stormcast Gardas. But I guess because of Gardas's special Azerite sword and hammer, that he is able to fend off the blows from Bellicor. But overall, I mean, he's not winning. Bellicor is surprisingly fast for his size and super powered with chaos magic.
He does manage to strike like one blow and like weaken Bellicor's wing, right? Doesn't he get like a slice into it and it slices at it?
He stabs his wing and Bellicor just sort of growls at him, and it's like, that hurts, but I'm a demon. I don't really care about pain.
And then Gardas is like, "You're a demon?" That's crazy. And it seems like it's the end of the line for Gardas yet again. And this dude has been reforged like a whole bunch of times. Yeah. Reforging really isn't on the table anymore with the fancy clouds. But right before Bellicor can finish the job or take out our shining Stormcast boy, a shining light comes beaming down from the skies, like through the clouds up above. And what it ends up being is the air cavalry, which is the Karajan overlords, come bursting through the clouds from above, sort of scattering them a little bit and allowing the light to beam downward as they come in to save the day. Guns ablazing, the cannons firing, just wrecking the demons every which way as they come swooshing in, lighting up all the forces of chaos and driving them from the city. I didn't really explain that super dramatically, but it was dramatic. Like you can like trumpet music playing and stuff, and the music swells and dramatic camera angles, the whole thing, the whole shebang.
Guns firing everywhere.
Lens flare, Michael Bay explosions, like just go into town.
Yeah. Sure. And the town is Vindikarum.
Yeah. And a couple cool moments that I think deserve being called out here. First one, as they're, flying around shooting down demons and ghosts, Atrazan decides that he's going to get up there to try and stop them, because he's been all over in this story. Very important.
Yep.
And they try to shoot him out of the sky. And obviously he's got his magic, so he's like shielding himself from their shots. And they're like, man, can't get through this guy. And Gribda Klarsdottir just decides, you know what? Let's just ram this guy. Let's just hit him. And they just fly right into him, and he just gets splatted with the prow of their ship. And I think it actually says that the prow has like a special name or something. It's like the Gold Hammer or something, which is pretty metal. But yeah, so, if you can't shoot demons to death, just hit him with a ship.
Exactly. It totally works.
I'll keep that in my back pocket if it ever comes up.
You never know.
What would you say? There are a couple of interesting things that were worth highlighting. Did you have other highlights you wanted to call out from this battle? It's the last chance we get.
Yeah. So the other interesting moment is that they brought the Fire Slayers with them, and the Fire Slayers get dropped off to fight some Tzeentch demons, and they specifically hunt down Fetanax, who is the one who led the attack on Gol Grimstock. And they just, I guess, you'd say, just throw all caution to the wind and are like, we're going to get this guy, which I guess is the whole point of the Barazak Doom. They're like, they don't care if they die. They just need to exact their revenge and get through to finish whatever quest it is that they've decided to swear their oath to complete. And in this case, it was to defeat the demons. And so they get their revenge and take down Fetanax. It's pretty sweet.
Well deserved, well earned.
I actually also have a interesting point. So they're talking about the armada coming down. And it says, quote, "From the latter came squadrons of gun haulers and single pilot fighter craft, swarming like angry glow jackets from a stirred up hive. That's pretty awesome. Single pilot fighter craft
Yeah.
for Karadan overlords. I would love to see that.
Are gun haulers too people?
They are indeed, and they're also they're not fighters; they're escort vehicles.
All right, that is cool. What I thought was cool was Be'lakor is fed up with all this floaty dwarf nonsense, and he rises to the air to take down the main ship, which is the one that we've been following throughout the story, captained by Admiral Humboldson. So he Be'lakor gets up there and starts attacking the ship, but is able to eventually land on it. He starts exuding some like terror, fear aura that sort of brings Humboldson to his knees, right? He starts having visions of all the things that he's ever been afraid of in his life, losing his ship and so on and so forth. And it seems as if at the very least, Be'lakor is going to be able to take this ship down. But at the last minute, Be'lakor realizes that there's this intense, strong power, and he sees, what's his name? Gromthy, sort of standing up to him at the top of the ship, and Be'lakor realizes, well, no, there's something more to this dude. He recognizes an intense power that he had thought had long since left the realms, but apparently it was back, and it was such a power that he realized, no, this is an element to my plan that I hadn't planned for, and I better get out of here because I hadn't sort of taken this into account, and who knows what's going to happen. And he's obviously trying to stick to his plans otherwise. So he essentially flees in fear, leaving the Duardin to clean up the city, because without his presence, the demons fall soon thereafter, and the city is saved by the Karajan overlords.
Yay!
Then there's a parade, an award ceremony. They give out medals.
Ticker tape.
Yeah, happy day. The city of Indikaram took heavy losses. Most of its defenders slaughtered, but at the end of the day, the city yet stands.
Yeah, the city stands, but there's like almost nothing left of it. It's like, well, we weren't destroyed, therefore we stand. Yeah, but it is a ruin.
But it proves that their faith was well placed, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Sigmar didn't let them down today, right?
Yeah, it says more than half of the celestial vindicators had fallen in battle, along with nearly all of the city's mortal regiments.
It's what we call a Pyrrhic victory.
Yeah.
But a victory nonetheless. And so after that, we sort of catch up with some of our characters and get a little bit of an epilogue of this last section. Although Be'lakor had fled the field, we get a little insight into his sort of inner monologue a little bit, and we get a sense that he still considers this a slight victory, which is to say that he still accomplished a lot of what his goals were, and the only reason he wasn't able to take the city down is because there was that unplanned for element that was Gromthy. And despite that, he still thinks that either the Chaos God should smile kindly on him, or he has set the stage such that he can continue his great work and succeed later down the line. So no skin off his back. He doesn't. He still is satisfied with the results of his invasion. I mean, who wouldn't be? The cursed skies seem to be spreading throughout Chemon, and then maybe even beyond. And so it seems as if that is going to set the stage for events to come in the near future. Woof, right?
Yeah.
What else did we see? What else happens after the main thrust of the story?
Well, I think the only thing that I can recall that we really have left is there's just a bit of a side that is a dialogue between Humboldson and Gromthy. And Gromthy basically says, it was really cool that all of the Karajan could come together and we could all fight together. And wouldn't it be great if all the Dawi, and they make a point that he uses this archaic term for the dwarves as a whole, could work together again. And Humbledson generally doesn't like that viewpoint. He sort of makes, he says how is that going to help us with gaining any profit? Like you would expect us to, I don't remember the exact quote, but to paraphrase, it's like, you would expect us to go to battle just for the benefit of the realms and working together and like bolstering our unity and fighting for honor rather than fighting for money. Like what would be the point? That doesn't keep ships in the air. That doesn't keep trade lanes open. And to that, Gromthy sort of just lets it go and seems disappointed and like visibly seems more aged after that, and then just disappears. And the only thing that would suggest that he was ever on the ship to begin with was the remaining pipe smoke in the breeze. So a bit of a mystery there that hopefully will get wrapped up a little bit more in the next Broken Realms.
Yeah. I like how he says that after hearing Humbledson like give his little spiel about, profit and all that jazz, Gromthy, like you said, suddenly feeling very old and tired, says, well, I suppose I cannot grudge you that, which seems like also a specific phrase. I mean, not that there aren't grudges in the Mortal Realms, there are, but like for him to specifically say, suppose I can't grudge you that, that with the Dowie really cements a character out of time a little bit for me here, but we'll talk about that in a moment. And I think that was the last scene that we have in the story. You guys, we might have finished. We might have finished it.
We might have.
We read the book. We
read the book to you, everybody. But we're not finished here. We've still got a few more things to do before we wrap up. How about we, instead of what we normally, let's hop into listener questions right now, because maybe it pulls up some points that we thought were interesting anyways, and we can riff off of what some of the folks had asked. Since we were just talking about Duarden, let's continue that train of thought with a question from Duke Eligos, who asks, what do you guys think will be the impact of the increased Kharadron presence and influence in Vindicarum? Does anything jump out at you?
So, as you'd mentioned earlier, the Gate of White Gold was necessary for getting supplies in and out of Vindicarum. As payment for helping Vindicarum, my guess would be that the Kharadron are going to come to some sort of agreement to be able to be a supply chain for them, but they're going to have to pay them probably kind of a lot. But in terms of like longer term ramifications, I don't know. I have a hard time thinking that the Kharadron are going to change their ways at all. They're probably going to kind of go back to trying to do what they've always done, other than that they've negotiated a new trade deal.
Oh, so you don't think that some sort of Duarden god is going to be able to unify the dwarves and have them change their ways?
I'm not saying it's not a possibility.
I kid. I don't mean to put words in your mouth. Paul, what do you think the impact of the KO presence and influence of Vindicarum is going to be?
I'm unsure as to what's going to be specifically about Vindicarum, because the Celestial Vindicators are all about faith, and the KO have none. Right? I don't know that mixes well to form an expanded presence in Vindicarum, unless the KO are like, all right, well, we get that section of the Iron Collar, the rim of the caldera that went out. All right, that's ours now. So we're going to make our own settlement on the ground, but that doesn't seem like something that the KO would do. So I have a hard time imagining the Celestial Vindicators and the hard faith-based mortals of Vindicarum meshing well with the KO. I do imagine that they would be swarming over the skies of Vindicarum and perhaps have a lot of sky buoys or even like sky watchtowers or whatever else going on. But I can't see it actually affecting the city itself all that much.
Okay, right on. I wonder with the cursed skies, we don't know how long this cursed skies thing is going to go on for. Maybe it's forever, and if that's the case, like maybe Chaman isn't necessarily the purview of Stormcast anymore with this like obviously huge issue that would need to be contend with. And if that aspect of the forces of order, whether it's Stormcast or, there's cities that would be under the Stormcast protection, if they are not as protected from Stormcast, that maybe the KO become more of a power in Shaman. I mean, they already are. They're obviously a huge power in Shaman, but maybe even more so if a lot of the realm is left sort of uncontrolled by those direct followers of Sigmar. I mean, I'd be interested to see if that plays out in some way. Like they have more control over the realm itself.
Yeah, for sure.
Duke also asked, will the Kharadron unification at the second conference of Madralta last? And so that was kind of what I was joking at you, Phil. Maybe not specifically, but do we think that this unification is going to stick? What are your thoughts? We'll go to Paul this time. We'll mix it up.
I don't think it's going to stick for all that long. But it might stick to the end of Kragnos, depending on how that plays out. Or it might stick as long as Gromthy decides to stick his nose into the business. He seems to have quite a lot of power over their decision-making capabilities, so that'd be my opinion.
He does indeed. Phil, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, that last dialogue, I think, foreshadows that it's probably not going to work. And I hope we see Gromthy again, because I think he's an interesting character, but it almost seems like maybe he's sort of resigned himself to the fact that, like, yeah, maybe I can't actually bring them together, and kind of knows that there's never going to be a true unity, but maybe for certain events they can be like called upon to really fight as one. So maybe we'll see them come together one more time before the end of Broken Realms, but I think like in the day-to-day they'll all go back to doing their own thing.
Do you guys thought about if they're going to come back together in that last Broken Realms book? There's already so many factions that haven't gotten the spotlight. If they take the time to highlight KO in that book and not some other faction, I think maybe not me, but a lot of other people are going to be disappointed. So for their sake, they better not like dwell on the Kharadron overlords. My only thought about the unification, normally I wouldn't think that the unification would stick for all that long, except for the fact that they keep talking about the unification of Duardin sort of across the mortal realms. Like that keeps coming up as like a story, like plot point. And so the fact that they keep referencing it makes me wonder that if something's going to come of it, right? I don't know what, can't pinpoint what it would look like or what that would do to the mortal realms or the Duardin race. But the fact that this is not the first time we've seen this thought makes me wonder if something that actually is going to come of it.
I will point out that not every Skyhold was on that Armada charge. Did say that almost every Skyhold. It didn't actually say all the Skyholds. So they aren't completely unified even in this like awesome moment of the cavalry charge. They aren't even unified completely there.
So those were our Duardin questions. We've been chatting about this cursed sky. Obviously, it's got an official title in the book, so it must have far-reaching importance. So Sever was asking, since the realm gates are actually broken and not just corrupted, can Shaman ever recover? What do you guys think? Can it ever recover? Phil, you go first.
So I'm going to say yes, but I don't know that it'll ever be the same. So the realm gates, and I mean, you can go back and find more information about this, but as we mentioned even before and has been mentioned in previous lore, that realm gates are just like a focus for the astral matrix, and it's a way to like connect points in the 8 realms. And the whole of the astral matrix is actually very important to the great plan for the Seraphon. So they're going to have to fix that just to restabilize the geomantic webs in the astral matrix. But I don't know that they're going to try and rebuild and re-erect any corrupted and destroyed realm gates. So my guess would be that yes, like the corruption will probably eventually be purged, but I don't know that it's ever going to be the same.
All right.
Yeah.
Paul, what do you think?
I agree because, well, we know that Shimon recovered from the Age of Chaos, and Be'lakor is basically trying to raise another Age of Chaos, right? So is it possible to recover from this? Yes. Will it be the same? No, because Shimon did not even recover completely from the first realm of chaos, which is why the map of the
Spiral Crux.
The Spiral Crux is the way it is, because it used to be perfect geomantic shape, and now it's these like swirling shards. So, but even while being those swirling shards, it still recovered and it became order. So I think it depends on your definition of the word recovered, but I think it's definitely possible for sure.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add other than echo the fact that, yeah, I think recovery is possible, but what that recovery looks like is going to be up for debate. Like recovery, but in a different form. Plus, we know Shimon to be a realm of change, right? Like that's one of its hallmarks, is that it's often a fairly changeable, malleable realm, which is always why Tzeentch has his sights set on it. And so because of that, like this, in a sense, is just yet another evolution in what that realm is going to look like. I mean, it's a terrible, chaotic, like evolution, but like it's just another version of change. And it always seemed to me as, man, I didn't think I was going to answer this question, but here we go. It always seemed to me that it was one of the most wild and alien of the realms. And so like this seems par for the course. Like that's not all that different. And so the folks that live here are probably used to having to deal with change in like wild environments. And so, I mean, they're going to have to deal with the state of things now as well. Sever, friend of the show, and Duke Elagos both asked questions very similar. Sever asked, what comes next for the Stormcast trapped on Shimon? And then Duke Elagos asked, how will the Stormcast deal with the cursed skies? Simply get rid of it, or will GW come up with a new reforging process? What do you think is next for the Stormcast reforging, knowing that it's got, a very glaring counter in this cursed skies? What's next on that front? I think Paul's first this time.
So I think that they can deal with it. We already had the short story last week about the Stormcast going into the oubliette and regaining the Stormcast souls. So that's one way that they're going to be dealing with it. The other possibility is Gromthy seems to have some godlike connection, godlike power, whatever. And the thing that reforges the Stormcast are the 6 Smiths. So perhaps you could relocate the 6 Smiths to a place where they can gather more of the lightning geists. It'd be interesting to have more of a mobile anvil instead of a permanent anvil. But I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do a relocation or a new way of reforging, but it's definitely a possibility for sure.
Yeah. Phil, what do you think?
So I also agree. I think that they have a precedent for Stormcast being able to manually gather souls. I mean, that was a whole big thing in the Soul Wars. So I do expect we'd continue to see that. In terms of like plans going forward, because that's probably not a very practical process of like, oh yeah, we'll just send Stormcast in to get them back. That'll be fine. To places like the 8 points. But I do wonder if maybe this means that, are we going to have to see a like stepping back of Stormcast? Are they not going to be like, basically I'm thinking about like in the Roman armies when the empire gets stretched so thin, it's like, well, we can't have the best guys everywhere because that's just not practical. So then we have to have, lots of conscripted, your non-Romans that you're just saying, we need soldiers. Here's some Roman equipment, basic training. you're going to be the guys who fill out the ranks and sort of keep the engine rolling while we work to try and send the main forces to all the places that we need to deal with. Because they can get more humans. Like that's less of a problem. But Stormcast are a limited commodity, and if we have to worry about them not being able to be remade, we have to be more careful about where we allocate those resources. So I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but it kind of feels like they might have to take a step back.
Yeah, right on. I predict that, this is a scry, I predict that we will find out more about the Stormcast solution to reforging with Age of Sigmar 3.0 with a new storm or a new chamber being released. So hold on for that, and all will be revealed, is my scry. Let's switch over to some Be'lakor questions. So Bram Chillman wanted to know, what impact does Be'lakor's plans and actions have for Archaon, and how will he react to Be'lakor? You guys, Archaon has been absent from this whole Broken Realms. How is he sitting this one out? What is he doing? So what do you think, what will his reaction be to the events of Broken Realms Be'lakor? What do you think? Phil goes first this time.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think we have a great idea of what Archaon's been up to, and like how is he going to react to Be'lakor coming back. My gut says that he's kind of going to laugh about this, sort of like, you thought that you were going to be able to take my place, because obviously they've been kind of back in, duking this out, but obviously Archaon's always come out on top, and so it's probably just thinking that it's like, it's uppity Be'lakor trying his tricks again. But in terms, like, he'll probably definitely take advantage of the situation. There's got to be ways that he's going to be able to take this and turn it to his advantage. I think anything that weakens the Stormcast probably helps Archaon a lot.
Right on. Paul, what do you think?
I think Archaon will be not happy whatsoever. He took the Eater of Tomes, who was the guy who was trying to destabilize the Realm Gate and get Archaon into his ear, and he made him blow up. Also, the Gaunt Summoners are the personal lieutenants of Archaon, so he's lost one. And he's lost a Silver Tower, and he has had a second one disabled. So I don't think Archaon is very happy with Be'lakor whatsoever at this point.
Would he know that Be'lakor did those things, though? Or was involved?
I assume he has spies as well, and I don't know. The Gaunt Summoners have ways of predicting the future as well.
True.
So it is not beyond the realm of possibility. But whether or not he has direct first-person reports, I can't answer that for sure at all.
In my headcanon, all of Be'lakor's people are actually Archaon's people. But I have no proof of that to be true whatsoever. I like to picture, the ramifications of these events. Be'lakor is striving and working and trying to get trying to accomplish so much. I'm not sure Archaon's going to acknowledge what has gone down. It's beneath his notice. Despite that, how ridiculous that sounds, considering, the ramifications of what Be'lakor did. But I'd like to think that Archaon is so above it, and he got his own things going on, and it really doesn't matter what Be'lakor does. And I really hope to see that play out. Again, that's a headcanon of mine. Magnus had a question. He says, excluding certain individuals, what specific nations and factions in the mortal realms does Be'lakor seem most likely to direct his energy and machinations towards, and why? He must mean after Cursed Skies happen. What do you guys think? Do you think Be'lakor has his sights on nations or factions beyond what we've seen here?
I would think so. Excluding the certain individuals, so I have to assume excluding Archaon. I have to assume excluding Lady Olander, since she's a very specific character in this setting. And I have to assume excluding Malerion, since he's the shadow god. Where he's looking to go next, he seems to be a planner. right? And he seems to take a long time to set up his punches. So I don't see him making any big moves in the near future unless he is goaded or required to. I could see him being goaded into action by situations, but I can't see him acting upon his ire unless it's going to be, again, Olander to try and escape this curse that she has him under.
Phil, what do you think? Any nations or factions Be'lakor will be in Be'lakor's crosshairs next?
Yeah, I mean, he makes those references to how he felt like while he didn't ultimately succeed, his plans generally succeeded. So, I mean, he's probably going to continue to have the First Legion keep messing with the Stormcast. But, I mean, if his ultimate goal is to get the attention and the favor of the Chaos Gods, I'm not really sure what his next play is, because he's got to make sure that what he does next is big enough that it would help further that goal again. Because, I mean, it almost seems like one of those situations where the gods probably took pleasure in seeing him fail again, just because
I know I did.
like they've probably are used to this, and so they're always like, oh, maybe he's going to do it this time, and they're watching and waiting and enjoying all the blessings, or not blessings, but all the sacrifices and things that are being made in their honor. And then ultimately it fails and they go, Be'lakor again. Good old Be'lakor. And so he's always just out of his reach. And so I have to imagine that he's gonna, take maybe another 1,000 years to lay out his next big plan. Either that, or he's just gonna feel like he can roll up on Archaon now and demand his rightful place on that throne. And then
that's the only thing I can think of that he could do to top what he's done. I mean, I guess he could just try and take out another city that isn't going to be saved by the Karajan overlords, or insert other faction here. But if he needs to make a grand gesture, you need to go for the champ if you want to get the belt. And so all this seems, all this work that he did in this book seems very interesting and very impressive. But at the end of the day, that's not going to be what gets you the crown. It's going to be taking the crown from the person who has it.
The way that they sort of had Be'lakor be, for lack of a better term, a near omniscient character who is known how everything was going to happen except for the final act of this plan for the last 1,000 years that he's planned this thing. It kind of makes it seem like he's gonna want to set something up again where he knows all the variables and how to move all the pawns and be 3 steps ahead of everybody.
Yeah, I mean, that he is going to be drawn to that sort of move. I agree. He's not gonna arm wrestle Archaon. That's for sure. So I think that's all the time we have for listener questions, but I will give you guys a chance to maybe pick one more interesting thing, if there's anything else you guys want to talk about from the story here.
I mean, if we can have a discussion about who Gromthy is, I think that'd be cool.
Yes, that's a great one. Let's do that. I'm surprised nobody asked about it. Perfect.
Yeah. Well,
Gromthy.
Everybody just cried about it instead of asking us.
Yeah, that's true. We already talked about this before we started recording. Give me your hot takes. Paul, you offered it. Who do you think Gromthy is?
I think that Gromthy is some combination of all 3 Dwarden characters that we know and love: Grungy, Grimnir, and Grombrindal.
We should have had you go last. That's the final. That's the last answer you give, but it's too late. We already started. Keep going.
And the reason why I say that is just because he has aspects of all 3. He has the tattoos of Grimnir. He has the inner fire, perhaps, of Grungy, and the wish to unify the Dwarden. But he also has the white beard and the the pick of Grombrindal. He's got a lot of everybody in one place together. And I think it is possible that he could be all three of those, but it seems more possible that he is a new thing, a new avatar or something in the realms.
Right on. I buy that. And it's fun because in the sense you made the argument for every possibility. So you've argued for everyone. Phil.
I hedged my bets.
Yeah, that's exactly what you did.
Can't possibly be wrong if I say it's everybody. I don't know that it necessarily has to be any one, but I guess if I had to stake my claims, I'd say that he's probably Grombrindal, but I think that he was probably given right, Grungni forsook. What is the past tense of
That's forsaken.
Yeah. So he left the dwarves again, which maybe he should stop doing that. It's going to be hard to have people believe in you if you don't help them out. But he's probably feeling like he doesn't want to face his children yet, or maybe that he can't because he still feels like they've turned their backs on him. So he doesn't feel like he can go himself to be like, hey, I'm back, guys. You should listen to me and we can be cool again, because that's probably not going to happen. So he instead grants power to Grombrindal and says, hey, you can go and help. And I almost wonder if was Grombrindal's spirit one of the heroes that was released during the Necroquake and was reforged by Grungni back into this new body and given additional power by Grungni so that he can then go back to the dwarves to sort of be his avatar and also a spokesperson for him to sort of gauge the room a little bit, like before he makes his grand entrance, be like, hey, so, maybe that Unity stuff, maybe that's not so bad again. Which it sounds like maybe they don't actually like that too much, but.
Sure. I think he's been presented intentionally with aspects of different possibilities to throw people off the scent so that we could have this exact same conversation. Basically, the GW writers wrote it in such a way that it would lend itself to conversation on the Mortal Realms podcast. I'm leaning towards.
It's so nice of them to think of us.
Yeah,
exactly.
I really do appreciate it. I'm leaning towards Grombrindal. Just because his beard was white, and that's basically all I'm going off of. I'm not going to consider any other evidence in any other form. Yeah, I'm a simple man who likes white beards. Can't remember. Oh, the other thought was talking about where he came from. There's actually been some shorts, other stories in the Mortal Realms that maybe even harken back to the Age of Myth that the White Dwarf is shown up in, and so this isn't even the modern era of these types of stories aren't the first time that we've seen Grombrindal, and I don't know how canon some of these Black Library stories have been, but I think it's a seed that has been planted a while back, and so it then makes me wonder if the possibility of it being him is more likely, but I'm not sure. I can't wait to find out. Or maybe we'll never find out. Maybe they're doing this on purpose just to mess with us. And by us, I mean, again, those on the Mortal Realms podcast right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
On the center of every universe, as far as I'm concerned.
The White Dwarf has been publishing Grombrindal stories every month by David Geimer. So that would lead to me strength to the argument that it is Grombrindal, because they've been tying the lore in from all the different aspects. Because the White Dwarf has been tying into Broken Realms, has been tying into Catacombs, has been tying into everything. So, since everything ties into everything, it would kind of make sense that Gromthy would be Grombrindal, and we get an introduction and an examination of how he helps the Dwarden to be more Dwarden. He also does use old-fashioned words in those stories as well.
Very cool. All right. My only thought, the only interesting point I wanted to bring up is the fact that Bellicor was able to find the bone place, the burial place of Lady Olinder through the aid of his shadow demons that are under his employ. And they're literally specifically called out shadow demons from Olgu. And I thought that was cool as heck.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say on that
Yeah.
matter.
Well, it's like one of the realms that we know almost nothing about at this point.
Yeah, and they've talked about shadow demons a couple times now from Ulgu. So like that's one of the only things we do know about Ulgu.
Well, and Velikor also does have like a massive army of harpies apparently that are in his home place as well. So it's possible he could go after the KO for ruining his plans. He's got enough flying troops to be able to do a mess of damage, so that's quite possible.
And if you want to wrap us up, Paul, with your final opinions on the book, you're more than welcome to do so.
Cool. I did enjoy this book quite a bit. I believe that I enjoyed Teclis more. I put it on par with Morathi. I felt some sorrow for having the realms actually trashed a bit. That was not my favorite thing. But I definitely still enjoyed it. 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up. I love it. Phil, what do you got? How'd you feel?
Yeah, I really liked this book. I think complete opposite. I actually thought I thought this one was better than Teclis. And I guess some of that was maybe just because I felt like some of Teclis was just sort of like back and forth the armies and like, and this is how this battle went, and this is how this battle went, and it was like, that's cool. Let's move the story forward though. And then all of a sudden the ending came and I was like, whoa, what? Wait a minute, what happened? But you know, it was still good. I liked it, but I think this one it had a better pacing for me, and I really liked how the story went out, and it also had Seraphon, so you know, it helps. But no, I actually think this is a really great story, and I would definitely recommend it for anybody who likes the lore of the Mortal Realms.
I dislike this book because Laura's Grimm died, and I'm not happy about it. No, I liked it. I, as Paven likes to say, and I'm going to steal his line in that, like, the Broken Realms have been some of the best sort of stories that GW has put out in the sort of Warhammer Fantasy / Age of Sigmar universes, and I agree with that, which is why I'm saying it. I maybe liked the facts, the details of Broken Realms Teclis a little bit better. However, I think the story was delivered better. It was presented better. It was told better. And so maybe the what wasn't as interesting to me as maybe some of the previous ones. I did like the delivery of the story much better. And maybe it was the variety, the different scenes, the different sort of factions that we interacted with. I really can't put my finger on it. It just seemed like it was just better told. But beyond that, now that we've had enough of these Broken Realms books, they're all sort of, despite the fact that they're very distinct stories separate unto themselves, they're all sort of starting to paint a picture, like a unifying picture across, the books that have been presented. And in doing so, I'm sort of losing the individuality of each one, and I'm starting to see the forest for the trees. And in doing so, I'm going to look back on this, I'm sure, and sort of take them all as a whole. And because of that, I'm only enjoying them more and more. So for those who are interested, if you like the first 2, I think you're probably going to like this one as well. It sort of continues that trend. And because of it, I recommend it. Any other thoughts from you guys?
Bring on Kragnos.
Yeah.
Agreed. I also want to take a minute and just say real quick, thanks to GW for sending us this book. They sent it to us a little early so we could get a jump on it in preparation for this episode. So for that, we greatly appreciate it. Very kind of them. And before I do my sign off, I'll give you one final question that I don't need a response from. I just need you to laugh, soak it in, enjoy it. But Klaus M.A. asks, what the hell is going on? And with that, it's time for our reforging. But Sigmar willing, we'll be back soon. Like, subscribe, share, or leave a review. Join us on Discord, drop a tip on our Patreon. Anything you can do will spread the word of Sigmar farther than we can on our own. Chat with us anytime about your thoughts on Twitter, at The Mortal Realms. Paul, where can they find you on the internet?
At PJ Shard.
Phil, where can they find you?
Well, I'm hanging around in our Discord quite a bit, so you can find me in there. If you want to learn more about Underworlds, come and listen to our other podcast, What the Hex, with me and Davey. And I'm Aaron, and you can find me on Twitter at Dosesos. And you can find all our Mortal Realms shows and content at www.themortalrealms.com. And 9's even like Nurgle's number or something, right? So the fact
No,
that you could fight
7.
9 of them at once. Oh,
7.
7. That's right. 9 is Zinch. Man, what am I doing?
And you're a Siege dude.
I am.
Man,
Yeah.
Siege, whose side are you on?
I thought you walked out of here.
I'm not sure.
Seraphon. Yeah, you walked out of here. Get out of here. Get out right now.